Chapter 63. On the way to Li Zixuan's house, Han Lijing introduced his family's situation to Li Zixuan. The uncle who that iron egg mentioned was called Hu Han Yun. The people in the village called him Old Hu. He used to be a blacksmith and a government soldier. He only moved to the Han village 10 years ago. Hu Hanyun's wife was Lu Yui, whom he met after he moved to the Han village. She was considered a flower in the village when she was young, but her personality was very shrewish. Young master, actually, this Old Hu is also a pitiful person. Han Lijing suddenly sighed heavily. Li Zixuan was puzzled. Oh, Uncle Han, how is he pitiful? Sigh, back then, Old Hu also fled from the north and came to our Han village. He was a forthright and righteous person. He could talk to anyone. It didn't take long for him to take root in the village. Later, he finally married Lu Yui. Everyone thought that his good days were coming. Who knew that Lu Yui's first child was actually born? More than a month after it was born, everyone found out that the girl was born blind. Old Hu's family didn't have much money to begin with. In order to raise money, he did everything he could. Then, he brought his daughter to basically all the big and small medical centers in Chang'an, but no one could cure that child's eyes. Ah? Old Hu's child was a blind girl? Li Zixuan was shocked. He had met Hu Hanyun before. This man gave him the impression that he had a carefree personality. He didn't expect him to bear such a painful misfortune. Sigh, young master, this isn't the worst. Later on, Lu Yuer gave birth to a son, Hu Guoji. Although the child was born healthy, the couple slowly realized that the child's reaction was very slow, and his speech was also very slow. The doctors all said that the child was a bit stupid. Someone in the village advised Old Hu to send the foolish child to the temple. Old Hu refused and said that even if his son was a fool, he would raise him for the rest of his life. Han Lijing finished and shook his head. His face was full of worry. Li Zixuan was silent after hearing this. In this era, the medical conditions were definitely not as good as in the future. Moreover, the people in this era were even poorer. There were always misfortunes. Alas, even though the world is at peace, the common people are still suffering. The two of them walked for a while before Han Lijing stopped. He pointed at a dilapidated farmhouse in front of them and said, "Young master, we've arrived. That's Old Hu's house." Li Zixuan looked around and realized that this courtyard was even more dilapidated than Han Lijing's house. The courtyard was surrounded by a low wall made of reeds and bamboo sticks, and there were a few dilapidated huts inside. It could be seen that this family lived in poverty. Han Lijing came to the front of the courtyard and shouted inside, "Old Hu, quickly open the door. Young master is here." Li Zixuan saw Han Li shouting at the door from behind. He suddenly felt like laughing because this scene was very similar to a joke from his previous life. "Old friend, quickly open the door. I'm checking your water meter." Fortunately, his tolerance was good, otherwise, he would have laughed out loud. At this moment, a woman's voice came from the courtyard. "He's here." "Is Han Lijing here?" Li Zixuan recognized the voice. It was Lu Yui's voice. He heard it during the mobilization meeting in the afternoon. When the courtyard door opened, it was indeed the plump Lu Yui. Just now, he heard from Han Lijing that she was a flower in the village when she was young. Li Zixuan took a closer look and found that her facial features were still considered normal. It was just that the years had left too many traces on her face. It seemed that she had suffered a lot in these years. But why was her figure so fat? Could it be that women get fat easily when they reach middle age? "Lijing, you're here? Io, isn't this young master?" "Young master is also here. Quickly come in and have a seat." She quickly came over to pull Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan quickly moved away and cupped his hand. "Hello Aunt Lu, we're here to see the Hu siblings. Are they at home?" Lu Yui was puzzled. "Young master, why are you looking for these two children? I'm afraid that these two children are insensible and impolite. They'll offend young master. Li Zixuan waved his hand and smiled. Aunt Lu, it's okay. Why would I be calculative with 2 children? Do I look like such a petty person? I heard from Uncle Han about these 2 children today. Coincidentally, I know a famous doctor. I'm here to see these 2 children. I'll ask that doctor later to see if there's a cure. Lu Yue heard this and a huge surprise rushed to her head. Her breathing quickened and her eyes widened as she stared at Li Zixuan. She said in disbelief, Young master, you're saying that our family can still be saved? Aunt Lu, I didn't say that it can definitely be saved. As for the specific situation, I'll have to see them to know. Okay. I'll bring young master to see them now. Young master, quickly follow me. Lu Yue couldn't wait to bring Li Zixuan in. Cough, Yue, why isn't old Hu at home? Han Lijing asked at this time. Lu Yue then remembered that Han Lijing was next to her. She quickly turned around and answered, Our master went to the fields. It seems that the rented cattle from the farmstead can be used by our family today. Our master went to the fields in advance to guard. Han Lijing suddenly understood and nodded. The few of them entered the courtyard. Li Zixuan saw that there was a flock of chickens in the courtyard. There were about 10 of them. Beside the flock of chickens stood 2 children. The slightly older girl was about 7 or 8 years old. She was so skinny that Li Zixuan even suspected that this girl didn't weigh more than 40 pounds. The girl's facial features could be considered delicate and pretty. However, her pair of lifeless eyes somewhat destroyed her beauty. The little boy was slightly chubby and was about 6 or 7 years old. He was squatting on the ground with his hands supporting his chin. He was muttering something to the flock of chickens. No one knew what he was saying. After he finished speaking, he was still laughing. Lu Yue saw that her son was making a fool of himself in front of the young master. She angrily shouted, Sure enough, quickly come over and greet the young master. You actually came over too. When the little boy heard the shout, he stood up and turned his head. He smiled at Lu Yue and said, Mother. After he finished speaking, he didn't immediately run over. Instead, he turned around and pulled the bamboo stick in the girl's hand. He brought the girl along with him. Li Zixuan looked at his actions and raised his eyebrows thoughtfully. Sure enough, quickly greet the young master. Seeing her son and daughter walk over, Lu Yue said to them, who actually bowed and politely said, Greetings, young master. Although she couldn't see, the direction in which she bowed was actually facing Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan was also somewhat surprised. However, what made him even more surprised was this girl's temperament. It was a kind of calm and indifferent, like an ancient well without any ripples. Standing beside her was like standing on the surface of a calm lake. This girl, at such a young age, her temperament was probably even more indifferent than those monks. At this time, Hu Sure chuckled and scratched the back of his head. He laughed foolishly and said, Hev he, sure greets, young master. This child's pronunciation was really very slow. Moreover, it seemed that this child was really struggling to speak. Also, when Hu Sure said this sentence, coupled with his name, Li Zixuan felt that it was a little strange, no matter how he heard it. Chapter 64. Looking at the 2 children in front of him, Li Zixuan felt a little uncomfortable. Other children at this age were playing with their friends outside, but these 2 children could only squat at home and play with a flock of chickens. How sad. Aunt Lu, you go do your things first. I want to talk to these 2 children alone for a while. Then young master, if you need anything, call me. Lu Yue responded and brought Han Lijing to sit in the front hall. Is your name Guoji? Li Zixuan bent down and tried to smile kindly. Perhaps because he felt Li Zixuan's goodwill, Hu Zixuan said with a silly smile, Young master, you already know my name. Why are you still asking for me? It seemed that this child wasn't stupid. Previously, when Li Zixuan saw that he didn't forget to pull his sister along when he came over, Li Zixuan felt that this child wasn't as stupid as Han Lijing and the others said. Now that he saw Hu Guiyuan, although he spoke slowly, his thoughts were very clear and organized. Li Zixuan was even more certain of his judgment. Sure enough, I heard that you can make chickens very obedient. Can you show it to your brother? Yes. Hearing Li Zixuan mention chickens, Hu Guoji suddenly became excited and quickly pulled his sister to the flock of chickens in the east corner of the yard. Li Zixuan crossed his arms with great interest as he stood to the side, watching the two siblings play out what kind of tricks they would play. He saw Hu Guoji raise two chubby little hands and let out a burst of hurried goo-goo-goo sounds. The flock of chickens seemed to have heard the order and excitedly surrounded him. Goo-goo-goo sounds around him. Sister, it's your turn. Hu Guoji shouted at Hu Guoji. She took out a willow leaf from her waist, put it to her mouth, and blew an incomplete tune. The flock of chickens that were surrounding her turned around and ran to her side. Li Zixuan was dumbfounded as he watched from the side. In his previous life, his family had also raised chickens, but when his mother usually called the chickens to feed them, those chickens would only run over and watch nearby. They would only dare to come over to eat when his mother was far away. It wasn't like this. When the chickens heard the voices of the two siblings, they were not afraid of them at all. They surrounded them as if they had taken drugs. It was really amazing. What Li Zixuan didn't expect was that there would be something even more extreme. Sure enough, Hu seemed to be a little high at this time. He ran to his sister's side and stood in front of the flock of chickens. Then, he turned his head to Li Zixuan and smiled proudly, saying, Hey, young master, look quickly. Hu Guoji raised his hands, half-squatted, and jumped up and down. His mouth made a very rhythmic G sound. The flock of chickens in front of him, at this moment, seemed to have heard his call and lined up neatly in front of him. What was even more amazing was that the flock of chickens actually followed Hu Guoji's rhythm and began to jump. They also tilted their necks and turned their heads neatly. Perhaps Hu felt that it was boring for his brother to play alone, so he put the willow leaf next to his mouth and played a happy and melodious tune with Hu Guoji's rhythm. In the small courtyard, a young girl was standing under the sun and playing a tune. A young boy was happily walking while making strange sounds. The flock of chickens on the ground twisted their bodies to the rhythm. This scene was so beautiful that it almost blinded Li Zixuan's titanium alloy eyes. At this moment, Li Zixuan's heart gave birth to a strange feeling. The scene in front of him was as if a young girl was playing music, and then a young boy was below the stage, leading a flock of chickens to do a square dance. Tsk. Li Zixuan expressed that this was really something that he had seen long ago. Hey, young master, Guoji, how is your acting? The two children played for a while, and Hu Guoji felt tired first, so he stopped and ran to Li Zixuan's side, somewhat proudly asking for praise. Usually, only his sister was willing to play with him. When other children saw him and his sister playing with a flock of chickens, they all treated them as fools and distanced themselves from them. This time, it was rare to have such an amiable young master who specially wanted to see him and the flock of chickens perform. Hu Guoji was very happy and had long regarded Li Zixuan as his best friend. Li Zixuan could see that Hu Guoji urgently needed to be acknowledged and praised by others. He also understood that this child's heart was lonely and lacked recognition. Li Zixuan smiled, rubbed Hu Guoji's head and said, Sure enough, your performance was very good. You really are the smartest child I've ever seen. Hu Guoji, who was on the side, heard this and breathed a sigh of relief. She was afraid that this young master would say something to hurt her brother like other people and make him sad. Her brother's heart had been hurt enough. At this time, when she heard Li Zixuan praise her brother, Hu Guoji felt a trace of gratitude towards Li Zixuan from the bottom of her heart. When Hu Guoji heard Li Zixuan's words, he jumped 3 feet high and excitedly rushed to the front hall. As he ran, he cheered, "Mother, young master just said, I'm not a fool. He said, I'm the smartest child in the village." At this moment, he was so excited that he spoke faster than before. This was the first praise he received from an outsider since he came to this world. Finally, there was someone who didn't treat him as a fool. Of course, Guoji's heart was excited. Although he was young, he had been treated as a fool by the children in the village since he was young. His self-esteem had been trampled over and over again, so of course, he was more mature than his peers. He was so eager to be recognized, and today there was finally someone who recognized him. Guoji felt that he had never been as happy as today. In his heart, he thought, this young master who came from nowhere is really a good person. At this time, Guoji used the bamboo stick to explore the road and came to Li Zixuan's side. She smiled and said, "Thank you, young master, for saying so. I haven't seen my brother so happy in a long time." Although her heart was as calm as still water, it was only for outsiders. For this brother of hers, she naturally cared and loved him very much. Li Zixuan habitually shook his head. Suddenly, he realized that this girl seemed to be unable to see, so he quickly said awkwardly, "Haha, what I said just now was actually the truth. I didn't deliberately say that to make you happy." Guoji said in disbelief, "Really? Of course it's true. In the eyes of others, your ability to make chickens obedient may be worthless, but in my eyes, your ability is priceless," Li Zixuan said with certainty. "Well, although I can't see young master's expression, I can feel young master's sincerity. Young master is speaking the truth. Thank you, young master." Guoji's face finally broke into a smile and said happily. Chapter 65. Actually, how did you and your brother manage to make the chickens listen to you? Li Zixuan saw that this little girl was not as distant to him as before, so he wanted to chat with her. Who actually replied softly, "Young master, isn't this normal? You actually believe that anyone who spends all their time with these chickens will eventually have the ability that my brother and I have. Moreover, my brother and I treat these chickens as our good friends, so naturally, they will listen to us." Li Zixuan was silent. This sentence sounded simple, but it contained endless loneliness and sorrow that ordinary people could not imagine. If it were not for their rough childhood, how could they spend all their time at home with these chickens? Actually, I just said that your and your brother's ability is valuable in my eyes. Do you know why? Li Zixuan wanted to change their fate, but this also required them to work hard. He could not cultivate their habit of reaping without sowing. Who actually shook her head and said, "Although I can feel that young master is telling the truth, I can't think of what my brother and I can do for young master with this ability. Actually, you should have heard from your mother that I want to raise a large number of chickens in the Han family manner, right?" Who actually nodded. Li Zixuan continued, "I need you and your brother to teach your ability to a group of people. Next year, I need you to lead these people to help me control the flock of chickens in the manor. When I tell you to drive the flock of chickens, you just have to do it." Who actually was puzzled and asked, "Young master, what do you need these chickens to do?" Li Zixuan smiled and said, "You will naturally know next year. I can't tell you now. I really hope that you can help me. This is not a deal. If you are willing, you can treat me as a friend. As your friend, I will also find a way to find a famous doctor to treat your illness." Who actually was surprised when she heard this, but then she shook her head and said, "Young master, as long as you can find someone to treat my eyes, I am extremely grateful. When I was young, my father spent a lot of money to treat my eyes. I don't want to trouble others anymore. Moreover, I am already used to the darkness." As for the matter that young master mentioned, he was actually very willing to help. This girl was so young, but she was so sensible. Li Zixuan was still lamenting how unfortunate old Hu was, but now it seemed that he was lucky to have such a sensible daughter. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Since we are friends, we don't need to care about these things. I will keep your eye disease in mind. If it can be cured, I will definitely find a way to cure it for you. In fact, there is more than darkness in this world. When you can see it one day, you will be fascinated by this colorful world." Who actually looked forward to the world described by Li Zixuan. He said, "In that case, thank you, young master. Aunt Lu, I've seen these two children. I'll talk to the famous doctor later and see if he can treat them. I also want these two children to help me. I hope Aunt Lu can agree." Li Zixuan entered the house and said to Lu Yue. Lu Yue smiled happily and said, "Young master, you have helped our family so much. We don't know how to thank you. Young master, if you need anything, please tell us." Li Zixuan told Lu Yue the plan that he had just told Hu actually. Han Lijing and Lu Yue were both shocked. They really didn't know why Li Zixuan did this. Lu Yue couldn't help but ask, "Young master, what is the use of letting people learn this?" Li Zixuan smiled and said, "It is very useful. Aunt Lu, you will know next year. Aunt Lu, let these two children help me teach people. I can spend 20 strings of coins to hire them. The tens of thousands of chickens that our Han family village will raise in the future will be called the Sky Chicken Brigade. These two children will be the captains of the Sky Chicken Brigade. Ha! In June next year, the sky would be filled with locusts pouring down. There would be a Sky Chicken Brigade on the ground, like divine soldiers descending from the sky. This would be a war without gunpowder. It would be a battle between man and heaven, a battle between chickens and locusts." Lu Yue didn't care about the Sky Chicken Brigade. She just heard that the young master was going to give her 20 strings of coins. This was 20 strings of coins. Lu Yue had never seen so much money. She really didn't expect that her stupid son and blind daughter could bring so much profit to the family. At this moment, her eyes were shining. Li Zixuan felt that her eyes were full of small amounts of money. He couldn't help but find it funny. Of course, Lu Yue wouldn't refuse Li Zixuan like old Hu. She and old Hu had been married for so many years and had become more realistic. She hurriedly agreed. "Young master, don't worry. I will urge Wang Jinghe to teach this ability to others." Li Zixuan nodded and smiled. "Thank you for your cooperation, Aunt Lu. I will ask someone to send the money over another day." He then turned to Han Lijing and said, "Uncle Han, let's go to the field to find Uncle Hu. We have to tell him about this." On the way to the field, Han Lijing couldn't help but ask, "Young master, what do you want Wang Jinghe to teach people to train chickens for?" Li Zixuan smiled. "Uncle Han, it's not convenient for me to talk about this now, but please keep this in mind. When you go back later, inform the people in the village. In the Han family village, whether it's adults or children, the first 100 people who learn the ability of Hu Jinghe and Wang Jinghe to train chickens will receive a reward of 500 coins. Uncle Han, you will work hard and be in charge of the assessment. Help me record these people's names in the book and then hand it to me." Han Lijing was dumbfounded. He really wanted to say, "Young master, is it really good to spend money like this?" In his eyes, Li Zixuan's actions were really nonsense. On the ridge of the field outside the village, the two of them found old Hu. Seeing him sitting on the ground, bored to death, as if he was waiting for something, the two of them walked over. "Old Hu, young master and I are here to see you," Han Lijing called out. "Io, Lijing, young master, why are you here?" Old Hu stood up in surprise. "Uncle Hu, I came to talk to you about Wang Jinghe and Wang Jinghe," Li Zixuan replied. "Young master, what's there to talk about those two children?" Old Hu stared at him in confusion. Li Zixuan told Old Hu about his thoughts just now. Old Hu immediately widened his eyes and said in disbelief, "Young master, don't make fun of me, Old Hu. You only want my two children to teach people how to train chickens, and young master will find a famous doctor to treat the two children?" Li Zixuan nodded and smiled. "Uncle Hu, what I said is true. Why would I make fun of you? Hearing the affirmative answer, Old Who suddenly became so emotional that his eyes turned red. His lips trembled. Young master, as long as you can get people to treat my 2 children, my life will be yours from now on. Even if young master wants me to die, I am willing. Li Zishuan also admired this honest and affectionate man in front of him. In his previous life, he had seen many parents who abandoned their children after giving birth to deformed or disabled children. This Old Who did not care about any difficulties and did not abandon his children. This was a man worthy of respect, and also a father worthy of respect. Li Zishuan hurriedly said, Uncle Hu, what are you talking about? Why would I want your life? As expected, as long as you can help me teach a group of people, that would be the best reward for me. Chapter 66. Outside the Han village, in the fields, Old Who kept thanking the young master, but he was not good with words. In the end, he only said the same few sentences. Li Zishuan felt very awkward listening to him. Seeing this, Han Lijing interrupted him and said, Old Who, you've been waiting here for so long. You still haven't seen the cattle? Old Who heard this and shook his head dejectedly. He pointed at a middle-aged man who was plowing not far away and said, Lijing, look, old Wang's family hasn't used up all the cattle. There's not much rain this year, so the fields are hard to plow. I'm so worried. Uncle Han, can't we borrow more cattle from the county? Li Zishuan heard Old Who's complaints and was a little confused, so he asked. Han Lijing shook his head and said, Young master, you don't know, but we have a lot of people in the village. The county has already given us more cattle than the other villages. At this time, it's spring plowing season everywhere. The county definitely doesn't have any extra cattle to give us. Old Who sighed heavily and said, Lijing, with the current speed of plowing, I'm afraid that many of the villagers will miss the spring plowing season. What should we do? Li Zishuan was shocked when he heard this. In his previous life, he was also a child from the countryside. He knew how serious the consequences of missing the spring plowing season were. At that time, many families would starve. If everyone missed the spring plowing season, it would definitely affect their enthusiasm for raising chickens. This problem must be solved. He pondered for a while, then looked at Old Who and asked, Uncle Hu, how much land can a cow plow in a day? Old Who scratched his head and thought for a while before saying, Young master, the fields are very hard to plow this year. A cow can at most plow 4 mu of land a day. If we plow more, we're afraid that the cows will be tired out. If this was in the previous years, they could plow 6 to 7 mu of land a day. It's all because there's not enough rain this year. For mu of land a day, this speed was too slow. Li Zishuan frowned and looked at Han Lijing and asked, Uncle Han, how many cattle do we have in the village? Young master, this year, the farmstead has rented 20 cows, which is already much more than the other farmsteads. Li Zishuan silently calculated in his heart. At this rate, wouldn't it take more than a month to finish plowing? That wouldn't do. It was not that he had not thought of spending money to buy cattle from other places, but in this era, cattle had always been scarce. If he bought cattle from other places, what would happen to the people there? If only he was like the other transmigrated protagonists and had a system with him, he could directly exchange for a farming tractor and guarantee that he could plow dozens of acres of land in a day. Since we don't have a tractor, and we can't increase the number of cattle, it seems like we have to think of other ways to increase the efficiency of farming. This problem was easy to solve. He had countless advanced mechanical models in his mind, and he would definitely be able to find a better plow. Uncle Han, I'll go and see what kind of plows the farmers are using. Li Zishuan instructed and walked towards Old Wang, whom Old Who had pointed out. Han Lijing and Old Who quickly followed. Li Zishuan came to the embankment beside Old Wang, and his eyes began to focus on the plow that Old Wang was using. Old Wang was concentrating on plowing and did not notice that someone was looking at him. In his previous life, Li Zixuan was very short-sighted. In this life, he did not know if it was because of his divine ability, but his eyesight was very good, and he could clearly see the structure of the plow from afar. He discovered that the structure of the plow was very strange. The shaft of the plow was actually straight, and it was actually about 9 feet long. With such a long shaft, it would probably be very difficult to turn around. Li Zixuan quickly constructed a three-dimensional structure of the plow in his mind, and based on his knowledge of engineering mechanics, he analyzed the various parts of the plow. He discovered that the plow required a large amount of pulling force to plow the land, and its structure was clearly unreasonable. Li Zixuan furrowed his brows. He was thinking about which better plow should be used to replace the current one. Various plows from different eras flashed through his mind, and suddenly, he stopped at a plow that was not very different from the current one. "I'll choose you." This should be called a curved plow, and it should not have appeared yet. The structure of this curved shaft plow should have been modified from the structure of the plow in front of us. Even though the modification is not very big, every modification is very crucial. Compared to the plow that Lao Wang is using, this curved shaft plow obviously saves more effort. It is very easy to see this by drawing an analysis of the force exerted. At this time, Li Zixuan not only had a three-dimensional model of the curved plow in his mind, but he also had a force analysis diagram. It was obvious that the curved plow was more labor-saving, and it was not just a little. The most important thing was that the plow was not difficult to manufacture, and it was easy to mass-produce. When he returned, he could immediately find a craftsman to start manufacturing. This way, he could ensure that the Han family village would not miss out on the spring plowing. In fact, the Tang Dynasty was currently using the long straight plow that was passed down from the Han Dynasty. The curved plow that Li Zixuan imagined in his mind only appeared in the Jiangdong region in the later part of the Tang Dynasty, and thus it was also called the Jiangdong plow. Compared to the long straight plow, the curved plow was more flexible and labor-saving. In the case where the soil was moist, even a strong young man would be able to pull it. "Uncle Han, you guys plow like this for now. I will think of a way for you guys in the next 2 days. I will definitely not let the villagers miss out on the spring plowing." Li Zixuan had a solution in his mind, so he turned around and said to Han Lijing. When Han Lijing and Old Hu heard this, they were pleasantly surprised. The land was the life of the villagers. If they missed out on the spring plowing, the harvest would be greatly reduced, and it would not be rare for people to starve to death. They did not expect that the young master would actually help them think of a way. This was really too surprising. "Thank you, young master. All of the villagers in the Han family village will remember young master's kindness for the rest of their lives. But what method does young master plan to use? Are you going to Chang'an to buy more cattle?" Han Lijing solemnly bowed to express his thanks, but he was also very curious about what method Li Zixuan would use to help them. If he were to buy cattle for their village, then the price he would have to pay would be too expensive. Li Zixuan shook his head and said with a smile, "Of course I'm not going to buy cattle. If I were to buy cattle, what would the villagers in other places use? Uncle Han, in 2 days, I will bring you a more labor-saving plow. At that time, your plowing speed will at least increase by 2 times. When Han Lijing and Old Hu heard this, they were both shocked. Did such a plow exist in this world? Old Hu's eyes widened exaggeratedly, and he cried out in disbelief, young master, are you speaking the truth? How could there be such a godly plow in this world?" Li Zixuan nodded with certainty and said, "Uncle Hu, don't worry. Seeing is believing. In 2 days you will naturally know." Chapter 67. When Li Zixuan returned home, the sky was almost dark. He also brought Iron Egg over. Since he had accepted this disciple, Li Zixuan also planned to teach him well. He would let Iron Egg stay in the west courtyard first. Since the west courtyard was so big, he could just pick a wing room for him. As for Han Yushi, of course, she didn't come with him. Li Zishuan planned to let her help with the wine mixing after he was done with his work. At that time, the first batch of fruit wine from the Han village would be delivered. Recently, he really didn't have time to care about this. There were too many things to do. During dinner, Li Zishuan's parents expressed their goodwill to Iron Egg, a new member of the family. Iron Egg, who was always dignified and strong, was a little embarrassed. During dinner, he was teased by Lan. Lan was also very happy about Iron Egg's arrival. Now, she finally had a playmate of the same age. Although her brother was usually very good to her, he always treated her like a child. Lan always felt a little indignant. Now that Iron Egg was here, she was no longer the youngest. Of course, this was only what she thought. In reality, Iron Egg was a few months older than her. After dinner, Li Zishuan reported the number of chickens raised by the Han village to Old Manly in the study. Old Manly was shocked. 80,000? So many? So many chickens, can the villagers raise them all? Father, don't worry, they can definitely raise them all. I will arrange for the villagers to take care of them. I plan to prepare to buy the chicken seedlings tomorrow and send them to the Han village in batches. Li Jingma nodded and said, Yes, the sooner, the better. Father, do you know the market price of the chicken seedlings in Chang'an? How much is one? Li Jingma thought for a moment and said, About 70 to 80 copper coins for one. But Xian if you need so many chicken seedlings, I'm afraid that the peddlers in Chang'an will not be able to supply all of them. 70 to 80 copper coins for one? So expensive? Li Zishuan was shocked. In his previous life, a chicken seedling only cost 3 or 4 yuan each, which was about the same as the Tang Dynasty. But after thinking about it carefully, he understood. Modern chicken seedlings were hatched in batches using large automatic incubators, so the cost was naturally lower. Li Zishuan frowned when he heard the second half of his father's word. Dad, do you have any way to provide a large number of chickens in a short period of time? In his impression, as long as it was related to business, his father was omnipotent. Unfortunately, he was disappointed this time. Old Manly shook his head, showing an expression of helplessness. I have indeed done various businesses in my early years. However, I have never set foot in the chicken market. Li Zishuan felt a little helpless. Then let's buy as many as we can and send them over. I believe that those peddlers will definitely think of a way when they see that the market is in short supply. At that time, we just need to give them more money. Li Jingma nodded and said with a smile, you've seen through it all. Early the next morning, Li Zishuan called Wang Zhong and asked him to bring Sanbao, Fu, and a few other servants to the East Market to purchase as many chicken seedlings as possible. The few of them took the money and left with the order. Li Zishuan calculated in his mind. If he calculated according to the price of 80 yuan per chicken, 80,000 chicken seedlings would cost about 6,400 strings of coins. Of course, with Li Zishuan's large purchases, there would be many other peddlers who would raise the price. Li Zishuan felt that if he wanted to buy 80,000 chicken seedlings, he would need to spend about 8 to 9,000 strings of coins. This was really expensive. Early in the morning, Iron Egg was also picked up by Li Zishuan to learn how to read from Lan. This made Lan very happy. She never thought that she would become a teacher one day. Looking at the little girl, with her hands behind her back, pretending to be mature and steady, teaching Iron Egg, Li Zishuan couldn't help but want to laugh. In fact, Li Zishuan's guess was not wrong at all. After Wang Zhong and the others came to the East Market, they were like bandit. When they met peddlers who sold chicken seedlings, they directly bought all of their stock. Merchants had the most sensitive noses. Some of the peddlers soon heard the news from Wang Zhong and the others. So one by one, they heard the news, and one by one, they raised the price of the chicken seedlings and sent people to the surrounding counties to purchase chicken seedlings in large quantities. In half a day, the price of a chicken seedling rose from 75 yuan per chicken to 85 yuan, and finally to 90 yuan per chicken. In a short time, chicken seedlings were expensive in Chang'an. However, Wang Zhong and the others still didn't care about the price. They bought all the chicken seedlings in the West Market, and told the peddlers that they still needed a lot of chicken seedlings, and asked them to hurry up and stock up. Young master, this old servant bought all the chicken seedlings in the West Market. There were only about 8,000 in total. In the end, some peddlers raised the price, but this old servant still bought all of them. Those peddlers will go to the surrounding counties to stock up today. We can continue to buy tomorrow. In the front yard of the Li residence, Wang Zhong pointed to more than 10 large wooden boxes on the ground and reported to Li Zixuan. Noisy chattering sounds came from the wooden boxes. For a moment it was very lively. Li Zixuan nodded and agreed. Uncle Wang, you did the right thing. I believe that the price of the chicken seedlings will only be more expensive tomorrow. I'll have to trouble Uncle Wang to bring 7 or 8 servants and hire a few carriages to transport these chicken seedlings to the Han village. Give them to Han Lijing, and let him distribute them according to the order that everyone signed up. Also, let Han Lijing immediately gather people in the village. The wage is 30 yuan per person per day. Let them surround the back of the mountain and build a chicken farm. You can continue to purchase the chicken seedlings tomorrow. Wang Zhong nodded and immediately went to gather people. Li Zixuan returned to the west courtyard and went to his study. He spread out a piece of rice paper and closed his eyes. He drew the structure of the curved shaft plow and labeled the dimensions. Li Zixuan also learned about the measurement units of the Tang Dynasty. The labeled dimensions were naturally converted. He also noted the things that needed to be taken note of during the processing. After he finished drawing, Li Zixuan rolled up the drawing and prepared to go to Yan Xiaoning's house to find him. Of course, the sooner the better. The villagers of the Han village were still waiting for his curved shaft plow to plow the land. Under the lead of a servant, Li Zixuan arrived at the Yan residence. After the gatekeeper announced his arrival, Yan Xiaoning came out to greet him with a big smile. "Haha, Xiao Xian, how come you have time to visit me today?" Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Brother Xiaoning is the technical director of our strange interest pavilion and one of the 4 major shareholders. Of course I have to come and greet you." Ha! Yan Xiaoning's forehead was full of black lines. He hated the title of technical director, but Li Zixuan wouldn't agree to change it no matter what. Now that he heard these words, he felt a little disgusted. Yan Xiaoning coughed twice and said, "Xiao Xian, come with me to the front hall. Why are you standing at the door?" Li Zixuan nodded and followed Yan Xiaoning into the residence. Chapter 68. In the front hall of the Yan mansion. After the two sat down, Li Zixuan asked, "Brother Xiaoning, how many scooters have you made?" He didn't come here just to deliver the blueprint. He was also very concerned about the opening of the strange interest pavilion. Yan Xiaoning smiled proudly and said, "Hee, Xiao Xian, you don't trust me? The first batch of 300 scooters was completed yesterday. We're just waiting for the opening of the strange interest pavilion." With his father's current status, it was easy for him to get someone to make some scooters. Li Zixuan's heart also relaxed. This Yan Xiaoning was really direct and efficient, unlike some pedantic scholars who did things indecisively. As an engineering student, he didn't embarrass his fellow engineering students. "Brother Xiaoning, I'm relieved. Otherwise, how can the strange interest pavilion open without products? By the way, Brother Xiaoning, have you found the craftsman for the strange interest pavilion?" He had asked Yan Xiaoning to help him find a group of skilled and honest craftsmen. The strange interest pavilion must have its own workshop in the future. This would be more conducive to keeping secrets and monopolizing the technology. Yan Xiaoning was even more proud when he heard Li Zixuan ask about the craftsman. He smiled and said, "Hee, I wanted to give you a surprise, but since you asked I'll tell you. After my father found out that I'm working with you on the Strange Interest Pavilion, he gave me one of our previous workshop. In the future, this workshop will be a part of the Strange Interest Pavilion. The craftsmen in the workshop used to work in the general's office. Their skills are excellent. Li Zixuan was really surprised when he heard Yan Xiaoning's words. He only asked Yan Xiaoning to help him find a few craftsmen. He didn't expect Yan Xiaoning to give him a workshop directly. This gift was really precious. Since Yan Xiaoning was so generous, Li Zixuan couldn't be stingy. He waved his hand and said generously, "Brother Xiaoning is really kind. I have to thank Uncle personally. I'll pay all the craftsmen's salaries in the future." Yan Xiaoning looked at him with a strange expression and couldn't help but say, "The craftsmen in the workshop work for Wonderful Interest Pavilion. Of course you should pay them. Little Xian, are you planning to let my father continue to pay them?" Li Zixuan felt that Yan Xiaoning's words made sense. He patted his head in annoyance and secretly scolded himself for being a fool. Well, Brother Xiaoning is right. I've been so busy these 2 days that I've become muddle-headed. Where is the workshop? Shall we go and take a look? Since he already had a workshop, wouldn't it be more convenient for him to let the craftsmen in the workshop make the curved shaft plows? The workshop is in an E-lane, which is very close to the East Market. It will be very convenient in the future. Li Zixuan said happily, "That's great. Brother Xiaoning, shall we go to the workshop to have a look? Since little Xian wants to go and take a look, then big brother will respectfully accept." He followed Yan Xiaoning to an E-lane. After making several turns and entering a small alley, he saw a relatively large group of courtyards. Although the houses were not luxurious, they occupied a large area. There was a sign hanging above them that read, "Strange Interest Pavilion Workshop." Li Zixuan looked at Yan Xiaoning in confusion. He didn't expect him to act so quickly. Yan Xiaoning seemed to see the confusion in his eyes. He smiled proudly and said, "My father said that since he gave the workshop to us, of course he had to change the name. This plaque was personally inscribed by my father. What do you think? Many people in Chang and can't get my father's calligraphy." Although Li Zixuan didn't know much about calligraphy, he could see that the calligraphy was vigorous and powerful. It was hundreds of times better than his own doggy handwriting. He immediately exclaimed in admiration. He praised in admiration, "Uncle Yan's calligraphy is really good. I owe him such a big favor this time. I must thank him in person someday." Yan Xiaoning laughed in his heart. "This is the effect I want. When you fall into my father's hands one day, let's see how you can find an excuse to be lazy." "Ha!" But then he said without changing his expression, "Well, little Xian, my father is very pleased that you have such good intentions. Let's go in and have a look." The two entered the workshop and saw that there were more than 20 rooms inside. There were some empty spaces outside with some wood and iron piled up. Li Zixuan even found a big iron furnace. The scale of the workshop was really beyond Li Zixuan's expectation. He thought it was just a small workshop, but it was actually equivalent to a small factory. At this moment, Li Zixuan was really moved. Looking at Li Zixuan's shocked expression, Yan Xiaoning introduced it to him. "Little Xian, this workshop was built by my father in the year of Wuda Yuan. At that time, it was just a small workshop and my father was only a supervisor. But our Yan family is a real engineering family and we know many people in the same field. It didn't take long for the workshop to expand gradually and we have more people. Now, there are more than 60 craftsmen in the workshop. Some of them are old craftsmen, such as Faubert, who worked with my father before. Their skills are superb. Little Xian, you can't mistreat these old craftsmen, or else my father won't forgive you." Li Zixuan waved his hand and said, "Of course I won't mistreat them. These people will be the foundation of our Strange Taste Pavilion in the future. In the future, their salaries will be increased by 50%. Yan Xiaoning raised his thumb and laughed, "Ha ha, brother, you're generous. The two of them entered a house and saw an old man dressed like a farmer drilling wood. He should be making a scooter. "Faubert, are you busy?" Yen Xiaoning called out. The old man turned around and saw Yen Xiaoning. He smiled and said, "Oh, young Master Yen, you're here. This is?" He pointed at Li Zixuan. When Li Zixuan heard Yen Xiaoning call this person Faubert, he remembered what Yen Xiaoning said just now. He knew that this person was an old man in the workshop and couldn't be neglected. He took the initiative to introduce himself. "Faubert, hello. I'm Li Zixuan, one of the owners of Strange Taste Pavilion. You can call me Little Xian." Faubert raised his eyebrows and said in surprise, "You're the one who invented the scooter and the roller bearing?" Li Zixuan smiled and nodded. Faubert said in surprise, "I didn't expect that you could come up with such a good idea at such a young age. It seems that we old guys are really old." "Ha! What are you talking about, Faubert? As the saying goes, having an old man in the house is like having a treasure. I have a lot of immature ideas in the future, and I need you to guide me." Li Zixuan valued these old craftsmen very much. Although their physical strength was not good, their experience was very valuable. Faubert felt warm in his heart when he heard Li Zixuan's words. This owner was young and talented, but not overbearing. Faubert also had a good impression of him. He stroked his beard and smiled. "Haha, you're too serious. We old guys just can't stay idle. We have no regrets if we can make one last contribution to the workshop. Faubert, you can call me Little Xian in the future. You're an elder, and I don't deserve it." "Haha, then I'll call you Little Xian. Come, Little Xian, you came at the right time. I was just about to talk to you about your scooter and the bearing." Chapter 69. Strange Interest Pavilion Workshop. "Little Xian, I'm a straightforward old man, so don't be offended. Although your scooter is innovative, it's just a toy for children. It's not beneficial to the people's livelihood. Your roller bearings are very useful. Since you have talent in this area, you should study more things that are beneficial to the people." After they sat down, Faubert began to preach to Li Zixuan. Li Zixuan was speechless. This old man's temper was really straightforward. If it was a narrow-minded person, they would definitely bear a grudge against him because of this. But fortunately, Li Zixuan wasn't that kind of person. He agreed with Faubert's words. "Faubert is right. This scooter is just a toy I thought of to coax my sister. Of course, I won't only make this in the future." Faubert nodded with gratification. "Well, you're worth teaching." Li Zixuan remembered another purpose of coming to the workshop this time. He said, "Yesterday, I went to my family's farmstead and found that it's very difficult to plow the fields this year due to the lack of rain. It's estimated that some of the farmers will miss the spring plowing. Brother Xiaoning and Faubert, do you know about this?" Yen Xiaoning's face turned solemn and he said in a deep voice, "This situation doesn't only happen in your farmstead. It's more or less the same situation in the surrounding counties of Chang'an. According to my father, this matter has alarmed the imperial court. His Majesty has also learned about it. He's ordering people to transfer a batch of cattle from the northern counties to Chang'an and distribute them to the farmers. He's trying his best not to let the farmers miss the spring plowing." Faubert also nodded and said, "I've also heard about this. But Little Xian, why did you mention this? We can't help much with this kind of thing. We can only rely on the imperial court." Li Zixuan stood up and disagreed. "Faubert's words are wrong. As the saying goes, if a worker wants to do a good job, he must first sharpen his tools. As a craftsman, you must have the spirit of a craftsman. You just taught me to study more things that are beneficial to the people's livelihood. Then why can't we make better farming tools for the people?" Faubert raised his eyebrows. He had been in this field for so many years, but today he was being lectured by this little kid. He was proud and arrogant. He was a bit unhappy and frowned. "It's easy for you to say. The straight plow used by the Tang Dynasty originated from the Han Dynasty. After several improvements, it's already the most advanced farming tool. How can there be better farming tools? I don't agree with Uncle Fu's words. How can craftsmen not seek innovation? How can they do things like planting trees for their predecessors and enjoying the shade for their descendants? If they don't try, how can they know that they can't make better farming tools? Faubert was not convinced. So, you can make better farming tools? Li Zixuan could also see that this old man was stubborn. It wasn't that he had a bad heart, but he didn't allow others to question him in the field he was best at. Li Zixuan had seen a lot of people like this in his previous life. Generally, all the big shots in various fields had this kind of bad habit. Li Zixuan didn't talk nonsense. He directly took out the drawing of the curved plow from his sleeve, spread it out on the table, and said to the two of them, "This is a type of plow that I thought of when I saw the villagers using the straight plow in the Han village yesterday. It's a more labor-saving plow. Today, I'm looking for a workshop to make a batch as soon as possible. Brother Xiaoning, Faubert, come and take a look." Yan Xiaoning and Faubert couldn't wait to take a look at the drawing. It was the first time that Faubert saw this kind of drawing technique. He couldn't help but frown. He wanted to ask Li Zixuan, but he was a little embarrassed to do so. He had just quarreled with Li Zixuan, so he couldn't bring himself to ask. Yan Xiaoning, on the other hand, was very familiar with this kind of drawing technique. He read the contents of the drawing carefully, then closed his eyes and concentrated. He imagined the structure of the plow in his mind. After a few breaths, he opened his eyes. "Little Xian, this plow of yours should be an evolution of the straight plow, right? I saw that you made some changes to the length and shape of the plow shaft. You even installed a wheel on the shaft. I've never seen this kind of structure before. I can't tell which one is more labor-saving between your plow and the straight plow we use." At this time, Faubert saw that Yan Xiaoning's words were clear and logical. It was obvious that he could understand this kind of drawing. Faubert couldn't help but feel depressed. He had been a craftsman all his life, and he had his own pride in this field. He didn't expect that today. It seemed that he wasn't as good as these two little kids. In fact, after Yan Xiaoning finished speaking, he noticed that Faubert was still staring at the drawing. He thought for a bit and understood what was going on. He patted his head and said embarrassedly, Faubert, I forgot to tell you. This kind of drawing technique was created by little Xian. These three drawings represent the shape of the object when seen from three directions." Yan Xiaoning began to teach Faubert about the three-view view again. Faubert had studied this field for so many years, so he understood it all with just a little bit of explanation. Even though he didn't agree with Li Zixuan's point of view before, he now somewhat agreed with Li Zixuan's drawing method. He nodded and looked at the drawing again. Li Zixuan also explained at the side, "Faubert, Brother Xiaoning, I call this kind of plow the curved shaft plow. It is made up of 11 parts, which are the plow share, the plow wall, the plow bottom, the plow press, the plow head, the plow arrow, the plow shaft, the plow judge, the plow construction, the plow tip, and the plow disc." Li Zixuan pointed at the drawing and explained one by one as he spoke. The two listened to him seriously. Even if they could understand the drawing, they definitely couldn't compare to Li Zixuan in terms of understanding the curved shaft plow. Li Zixuan continued, "I changed the long straight shaft into a short curved shaft and installed a plow disc that can rotate freely at the head of the shaft. Not only does this make the plow frame smaller and lighter, but it also makes it easier to turn and turn. It's more flexible to operate and saves more manpower and animal power. Also, I added the plow judge and plow arrow. If the plow judge is used, the plow arrow can be directed downwards and the plow share will go deeper into the soil. If the plow judge is used, the plow arrow can be directed upwards and the plow share will go deeper into the soil. By combining the plow judge, plow arrow, and plow arrow, It can adapt to the different requirements of deep plowing and plow. Not only can the plow wall break the soil, but it can also push the plowed soil to the side and reduce the resistance of the plow. With all these improvements, the curved shaft plow saves at least 50% of the effort compared to the straight shaft plow. Li Zixuan looked at the drawing and spoke with assurance. The two nodded as they listened. In the end, Faubert couldn't help but say, "Your design is quite innovative, and it sounds reasonable. However, we are only talking about it on paper. No one knows if it will save more effort or be easier to use." Li Zixuan wanted to tell him that there was a theoretical basis for all of this. He just needed to draw a force analysis diagram and do some calculations according to the formula to know which one saved more effort. However, if he told them that, he would have to teach them about engineering mechanics. This was not something that could be explained in a few words. Li Zixuan could only say, "Faubert, what you said is not unreasonable. However, practice is the only standard to test the truth. Instead of arguing here, why don't we make a batch of plows to test first? Won't we know which plow saves more effort?" Faubert muttered, "Practice is the only standard to test the truth. Little Xian, what you said is very reasonable. Then let's make one to test." Li Zixuan cupped his hands and smiled. "Then I'll have to trouble Faubert to make 20 curved shaft plows. My village needs them urgently. The day after tomorrow, I'll bring this batch of curved shaft plows to the village for an experiment." Faubert frowned. "Little Xian, you're making so many on your first try?" Li Zixuan smiled confidently. "Faubert, I'm very confident in the curved shaft plows. The villagers of the Han village are waiting for spring plowing. I don't have time to test them one by one. I believe that the curved shaft plows can solve this urgent problem." Faubert hesitated for a moment and nodded. "Okay, since Little Xian said so, then the workshop will work overtime to make 20 curved shaft plows. The day after tomorrow, I'll go with you to the Han village to see the result." "I want to go too," Yan Xiaoning hurriedly added. If the curved shaft plows were really as magical as Li Zixuan said, then this would definitely be a shocking event. He had to go and see for himself. Chapter 70. When Li Zixuan left the workshop, he asked someone to send the 300 scooters that he had already made to the Strange Interest Pavilion. The original shopkeeper of the Curious Pavilion had already moved everything away. Li Zixuan had previously had Wang Zhong decorate the shop. He felt that the most important thing about the Curious Pavilion was the novelty of the products, not the decoration of the shop. "Brother Xiaoning, now that we have the first batch of scooters, I plan to open for business tomorrow. I will have someone inform the Crown Prince and Princess Changel that tomorrow at noon, Brother Xiaoning, please be there on time." With the first batch of scooters, Li Zixuan's back was firm and he planned to open for business immediately. Yan Xiaoning was shocked. "So fast?" Li Zixuan nodded his head. "Since we already have the first batch of scooters, the sooner we open for business, the better. Besides, there are still a lot of things waiting for me to do." "Okay, then your brother will definitely be there on time tomorrow." When Li Zixuan returned home, he immediately wrote 2 invitations and asked Wang Zhong to send them to Qing Chumo and Li Chengqian. These 2 good brothers still had to be notified and at the same time, let them come and support him. Wang Zhong accepted the order and left. Li Zixuan then called for San Bao, instructing, "San Bao, go to the Western Market and find 6 children from the vaudeville troupe. 6 or 7 years old will do. Tell them that this young master needs to invite people to perform. Each person will be paid 200 copper coins a day. Quickly go and bring them back." Although San Bao was puzzled, he knew that he should not ask. Thus, without hesitation, he bowed and replied, "Yes, young master. San Bao will go immediately." 2 hours later, San Bao returned with the 6 children and a middle-aged man. "Young master, San Bao has returned. This is troop leader's son of the vaudeville troupe." He was somewhat worried and followed along. San Bao pointed at the middle-aged man and introduced him to Li Zixuan. Without waiting for Li Zixuan to speak, Leader's son took the initiative to step forward and say, "Young master, I'm really sorry. I was just worried that these children were not sensible and would offend young master, so I followed you. Young master, please don't misunderstand." Li Zixuan knew in his heart that Leader's son was probably afraid that something would happen to these children, such as encountering human traffickers or something. That was why he followed them. However, this also showed that this person had a good heart and was not the kind of person who only had money in his eyes. Li Zixuan was too lazy to expose him, so he just smiled and said, "What are you talking about, Leader's son? I have a shop in the East City that will officially open tomorrow. I invited these children here mainly to let them perform at the entrance of the shop tomorrow for a festive occasion." Leader's son heaved a sigh of relief when he heard this. He had indeed been worried about the safety of these children before, which was why he had followed them here. "If that's the case, young master, if you have any requests, feel free to instruct these children. Their playing skills are not bad. This old man will take his leave first." Li Zixuan nodded. "San Bao, give your salary to Leader's son first." After Leader's son left, Li Zixuan looked at the 6 children in front of him. There were 3 boys and 3 girls. They were all about 6 or 7 years old. Although they looked thin and weak, each of them exuded a sense of cleverness. "What are your names?" Li Zixuan asked kindly. "Young master, my name is Xiao Hang. I'm the oldest among us. This is Xiao Hao, this is Xiao Ji, this is Xiao Shui, this is Xiao Meng, and this is Xiao Ye. Young master, what do you want us to perform? Feel free to instruct us. Although we are young, we can definitely do it well." A slightly older boy came out and introduced them to Li Zixuan. The other children looked at Li Zixuan with hopeful faces. They all wanted to perform well and satisfy this young master. Otherwise, they would definitely be scolded when they went back. "Well, don't be nervous. I didn't ask you to perform any difficult juggling. I just want you to play something very interesting. San Bao, go and bring all the scooters in our school." "Yes, young master." Half an hour later, San Bao and 2 other servants brought 6 scooters over. The 6 children stared at the scooters curiously. Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Your task is very simple. You must learn how to ride the scooters by today. When my shop opens tomorrow, you will split into 2 groups and ride the scooters. Make 2 lines of scooters at the entrance of the shop to attract the crowd. San Bao, come over and teach them how to ride." San Bao's face was bitter. This was something for children to play with. He was too embarrassed to play with it. "Young master, San Bao has never played with scooters before." "Stop talking nonsense. If you haven't played with scooters before, then you haven't seen it before. How Lon usually plays with scooters is how you play with scooters. Quickly, go and teach them. I will reward you." Li Zixuan was, of course, unwilling to teach a group of children how to ride scooters. It was too degrading. He had no problem teaching his younger sister, but with so many children, it was better to let San Bao teach them. Li Zixuan finished speaking and went back to the west courtyard. He planned to wait for 4 hours before coming back to check on the progress. Duke Lu's mansion. "Young master, this is an invitation sent by Li Zixuan." The Qing mansion's housekeeper handed an invitation to Qing Chumo. "An invitation from Xiao Xian? What does he want to do? Let me see." Qing Chumo took the invitation curiously. He opened it and looked at it carefully. He said, "Strange Interest Pavilion? What is it for?" "Uncle Liang, do you know about the Strange Interest Pavilion?" Housekeeper Liang thought for a while and replied, "I have never heard of this Strange Interest Pavilion. But looking at the location written on the invitation, it should be the shop where the East City's Heavenly Craft Pavilion used to be. I heard that the Heavenly Craft Pavilion was going to sell it, but I didn't expect it to be bought by the Li family." Qing Chumo nodded. He also didn't know what Li Zixuan was doing. But he suddenly remembered a rumor today and said, "Uncle Liang, I heard that Xiao Xian's family was wantonly purchasing chicken seedlings in the West City today. Is this true?" Housekeeper Liang nodded. "Young master, I also heard about this today. It is said that they bought at least 7,000 chicken seedlings today. They bought almost all the chicken seedlings in the East City today. I am also curious as to why they bought so many chicken seedlings." Although Ching Chumo was a bit fierce, he wasn't stupid. He stroked his stubbled chin, thought for a while, and said, "This brother of mine is very smart. This brother of mine is very smart. I don't believe that he would make a loss. There must be a deeper meaning behind this. I'll ask him tomorrow. If there's really a profit to be made, I'll ask my father to buy some chicken seedlings." East Palace. An eunuch hurried in and bowed to Li Chengqian. "Reporting to your highness, there is a person outside the palace with the East Palace token. He asked this servant to give this invitation to your highness." Li Chengqian curiously said, "Oh, give it to me." When he saw the contents of the invitation, Li Chengqian's eyes lit up. He said, "Oh, they open for business so soon? That's great. Come, set up the Changle Palace." Chapter 71. Changle Palace. Changle was reading Journey to the West with great interest. She had been studying palace etiquette in the inner court for the past 2 days. It was rare for her to be free today. She finally had time to read this imaginative story. Changle, are you reading Journey to the West? Li Chengqian came in directly without letting anyone report. He had a good relationship with Changle. He had come to Changle Palace many times, and the palace maids were already used to it. "Ah, Brother Crown Prince, why are you here?" Changle saw that her story was interrupted. She looked up and saw Li Chengqian. She was pleasantly surprised. "Haha, I'm here to give you good news today." Li Chengqian envied Li Zixuan since he met him and saw the harmonious and warm relationship between him and Lan. After that, he visited his sister more frequently. He also wanted to be a good brother. "Brother Crown Prince, what's the good news?" Changle smiled faintly. Li Chengqian took out the invitation and handed it over. He said, "Changle, Strange Interest Pavilion will officially open tomorrow. You are also one of the shareholders. Do you want to go tomorrow?" Changle took the invitation and opened it. She was pleasantly surprised. "Of course I want to go. Let's go and ask for leave from Mother. I will go out with Brother Crown Prince tomorrow." She put down the invitation and was about to pull Li Chengqian to the inner court to find Zhang Sun. Li Chengqian shook his head helplessly and followed his sister. Li Tai remembered that he hadn't returned the Journey to the West that he borrowed from Changle. He thought about going to Changle Palace to return it. As an elder brother, it was already not proper for him to borrow the book secretly. If he borrowed it and didn't return it, it would be even more inexcusable. To show his sincerity, Little Fatty specially brought the hardcover version of Journey to the West, that he personally copied and came to Changle Palace. Of course, he was prepared to be scolded by Changle. After all, he was in the wrong. "This servant greets your highness, Duke of Wei." When Li saw the visitor, she immediately went forward and bowed. However, the way she looked at Li Tai was a little strange. Last time, Li Tai stole books and caused her to almost be punished. Of course, she didn't dare to blame Li Tai. She was just a little vigilant and thought to herself, could it be that Wei Wang is here to steal again? Li Tai pretended not to see her strange eyes. He waved his hand and coughed softly. "Ahem, where is Changle?" "Reporting to your highness, the princess just went out with the crown prince." Li Tai's eyes lit up as he was secretly delighted. However, he did not show it on his face. He waved his hand and said, "Then go busy yourself. This king is just taking a stroll." After saying that, he walked straight into the palace. Li wanted to follow and take a look so that she wouldn't lose something again. However, Li Tai specifically forbade her from following. If she followed, she would definitely provoke Li Tai. After hesitating for a moment, Li Er still didn't dare to follow. She prayed that the princess would return soon. Li Tai came to the hall and quickly glanced around. After seeing that there was no one, he immediately sneakily put the hardcover edition of Journey to the West on the table and prepared to leave. He was also afraid that Changle would suddenly return. At this moment, he saw a red invitation on the table. After hesitating for a moment, he took it and opened it to take a look. East Market, Strange Interest Pavilion Opening. What is this? Li Zixuan? It's actually Li Zixuan's shop? So it's you, this bastard. Instead of writing Journey to the West properly, you actually opened some strange interest pavilion. You really don't do proper work. I'm so angry. This king will go and capture you tomorrow to specially write stories. Li Tai put down the invitation and walked away angrily, leaving behind a dazed Li outside the hall. Unaware that someone was plotting against him, Li Zixuan took an afternoon nap on the lounge chair in the western courtyard. When he opened his eyes, the sun was about to set. Thinking that the children in the front yard were still practicing their scooters, Li Zixuan hurriedly got up and washed his face. He wanted to go to the front yard to see how the children were doing. Before he reached the front yard, he heard the laughter of children. Li Zixuan even heard Iron Egg and Lan Er's voices. Hence, he hurriedly walked over. Little Ji, pay attention to controlling your speed. Maintain the formation. Yes, got it, brother Little Hang. Little Shui, your team's speed should be faster. Keep up with Miss Lan Er's speed. Don't fall behind. Understood. When Li Zixuan came over, he saw Little Hang instructing a few people to practice their scooters. There were a total of 2 teams. The boys' team, Little Hang was at the front. Iron Egg, that brat, actually mixed into the team. As for the girls' team, Lan Er was at the front. Behind her, 3 little girls were struggling to follow Lan Er. The 2 teams were like 2 small dragons, meandering in the front yard. It was very beautiful. The few children in the field cheered repeatedly, and Lan Er's voice was the loudest. The little girl usually had few playmates. This time, so many children came to play scooters with her. She was so excited that she pulled Iron Egg, who was learning how to read, along. Ah, brother, you're here. When Lan Er saw Li Zixuan, she stopped in her tracks and said in surprise. However, the 3 little girls following behind her didn't have time to stop in time. Be careful. Seeing that the few people were about to be rear-ended, Li Zixuan flashed over and picked up Lan Er and her scooter. Only then did they avoid a chain accident. He put Lan Er down and glared at her angrily. You're so careless. How can you be so careless? Lan Er was not afraid of him. She went forward and grabbed Li Zixuan's arm. She smiled and said, Lan Er knows that brother can save me in time. Didn't it happen last time? Little Hang and the others had also stopped their scooters. They came to Li Zixuan with some fear and said with trembling, Young master, please forgive us. We didn't take good care of Mississippi. Li Zixuan smiled and waved his hand. He was not the kind of person who couldn't distinguish right from wrong. It's not your fault. Don't be afraid. I just saw. Little Hang, you guys are practicing very well. Let's stop here today. Tomorrow morning, when the gate opens, you guys come over and practice for a while. At noon, we'll go to the East Market together. Sanbao, give each of them 10 coins. You guys go home quickly. It was not that he was stingy, but 10 coins was a lot for these children. If he gave them more, it would harm them. When Little Hang heard that Li Zixuan did not vent his anger on them, he was greatly relieved. These young masters of rich families often beat people over small things. When he heard that there was a reward, Little Hang quickly went forward and said gratefully, Thank you, young master, for your reward. We will definitely come on time tomorrow and practice well. We won't embarrass you. Li Zixuan nodded. This child was very clever and knew how to talk. He could not help but wonder, are the children in ancient times all so precocious? The children happily received the reward and went home. At this time, Lan came over and said, "Brother, Lan wants to perform with them tomorrow, okay?" Li Zishuan frowned and said, "Lan, why are you adding to the trouble? If there's trouble like just now, it will be very dangerous." Lan pouted and said, "It won't happen. Lan was happy to see you just now. Lan promises that it won't happen again, okay, brother?" Li Zishuan's hair stood on end. When did this little girl learn to act coquettishly? He hurriedly jumped away, waved his hand and said, "Okay, you go. When the time comes, be careful." Lan cheered and said, "Okay, then Iron Egg will go with us tomorrow, okay? Give him an inch and he wants a mile." This was a classic example of giving him an inch and he wants a mile. However, when Li Zishuan saw that Iron Egg was looking at him with a hopeful face, he knew that this child was addicted to playing. He said, "Okay, but Iron Egg has to learn 20 words tomorrow before you can go." "Oh, brother is the best. Iron Egg, let's go. Sister will teach you how to read now." Li Zishuan looked at the little girl's back and shook his head. Alas, this crazy girl. In the future, no one in the family will be able to control her. Chapter 72. The next morning, Li Zishuan was woken up by Xiao Shi. Xiao Shi said that the children from yesterday were already waiting in the front yard. Li Zishuan was still sleepy. He waved his hand and said, "Xiao Shi, let them practice first. I'm going to sleep for a while." After saying that, he directly fell onto the bed and laid out the word, big, without any care for his image. Oh no, it should be the word two. Xiao Shi saw the tall tent below the young master, and quickly ran out with a red face. She thought to herself, "Young master is such a hooligan." Late in the morning, Li Zishuan finished his breakfast and went to the front yard. He saw the 8 children playing in the front yard. Today, their formation was obviously more orderly than yesterday. They cooperated better with each other and the distance between each pair was also smaller than yesterday. Li Zishuan felt that it was quite interesting as he watched from the side. He looked up and saw that it was about time. Li Zishuan walked over and interrupted. "All right, let's stop. It's about time. Xiao Shi, go to the kitchen and get some pastries. You guys should eat something to fill your stomachs. There's no time for lunch. After lunch, we'll go to the East Market." The children were surprised. They didn't expect that other than their salary, they would also be rewarded with food. After they thanked Li Zishuan, they quickly went to wash their hands and eat the pastries. After watching them eat the pastries, Li Zishuan waved his hand and shouted, "Let's go." Then, like a child king, he led the 8 children on the scooters and rushed to the East Market. As for Wang Zhong, he had already gone to the shop to prepare for the opening. This strange team attracted a lot of attention along the way. The people of the Tang Dynasty had never seen such a strange small car before. The pedestrians all made way and stood by the roadside to point at the scooters under the children's feet. However, this made the passers-by with children suffer. Children were very playful. Seeing such a novel toy and seeing that other children were having so much fun while they were not, how could they hold it in any longer? They immediately started acting coquettishly. "Mother, I also want that small car. Mother, quickly buy it for me." "Daddy, Meng wants the cars that those little brothers and sisters play with. Can Daddy also buy one for Meng?" These two were the gentle type of people who could negotiate with each other. Of course, there were even more extreme ones. "Dad, if you don't buy that car for me, I won't get up today." A certain brat directly rolled on the ground and acted shamelessly. The man beside him was so angry that the veins on his forehead bulged. He said angrily, "You little bastard, if you don't get up, I'll beat you to death." "I won't get up even if you beat me to death." The parents looked at each other and could only compromise. But where were they going to buy such a car for their children? "Brother, do you know where I can buy this car?" "I don't know either. This is the first time I've seen it. Should we follow them and take a look?" Brother, you're right. Just like this, without any advertising, the scooter had its first group of followers. The line behind Li Zishuan was also getting longer and longer. After entering the East Market, the crowd was even denser. There were even more onlookers. Naturally, the line was also longer. Li Zishuan was also happy to have them follow. It would be a waste if he didn't want free publicity. Li Zishuan brought the team to the entrance of the strange interest pavilion. He found that Yan Xiaoning had already arrived. He was instructing people to lay out a red carpet and hang red ribbons around the shop. The entire strange interest pavilion was bustling with activity and was filled with joy. Li Zishuan greeted him and saw that there was a plaque covered with a red cloth hanging above the shop. Li Zishuan curiously looked for Wang Zhong and asked, "Uncle Wang, where did this plaque come from?" "Young master, this was just sent by a group of people. They said it was custom-made by a person called Gao Ming." Oh, Li Zishuan patted his head. These past 2 days, he had been busy preparing for the opening of the shop. He had nearly forgotten that the plaque had not been made. Fortunately, Li Chengqian was rather reliable. He had not forgotten about the plaque he had asked him to make last time. Li Zishuan patted Wang Zhong's shoulder and whispered, "Uncle Wang, this plaque was sent by His Imperial Highness, the Crown Prince. In a moment, the Crown Prince and Princess Changel will be coming. Don't be too surprised." In the future, Wang Zhong and Li Chengqian would inevitably come into contact many times. Li Zishuan wanted to tell Wang Zhong as soon as possible to prevent him from accidentally offending Li Chengqian. "Ah, young master, this, Wang Zhong's eyes widened in shock. He retreated 2 steps in disbelief. Li Zishuan comforted him. "Uncle Wang, don't worry. The Crown Prince's temper is still quite good." Li Zishuan was preparing to go out and have the children begin their performance on the scooter. At this moment, he saw Li Chengqian, Princess Changel, and Ching Chuma walking over together. Li Zishuan promptly went to welcome them. "Gao Ming, little sister Changel, brother Chonyo, you've come." Li Chengqian nodded his head in greeting. Changel smiled sweetly. "Brother Xiaoxian, Changel has 10% of the shares in this shop. Of course, Changel has to come take a look. Changel also has to thank brother Xiaoxian for the 10% of shares. This is Changel's first time opening a shop." Li Zishuan liked this bright-eyed princess from the bottom of his heart. Hearing Changel's words, he smiled and said, "It's fine as long as the princess likes it. There's no need to be polite." At this moment, Ching Chumo stepped forward and laughed heartily. "Haha, after not seeing you for a few days, Xiaoxian, you've actually opened your own shop. As your older brother, of course I have to come and congratulate you. Haha. Many thanks for brother Chonyo's support. Everyone, please follow me into the shop." After having Wang Zhong attend to these 3 people, Li Zishuan once again arrived outside the shop. Facing the children, he said, Xiaoxian, start the scooter. Little Hang, lead them and start performing the skateboard formation. Just stay around here. Don't go too far. Be careful, especially Lan. Do you hear me?" "Yes, young master," Xiaoxian quickly replied. Finally, she could go out with her friends. Lanner said excitedly, "Got it, brother. Lanner will be very careful." At this moment, Changel and the other 2 also came out. Looking at the group of children standing on the strange scooter and lined up neatly, Changel couldn't help but ask curiously, "Brother Xiaoxian, what's this called? Will our strange taste pavilion sell this in the future?" "This thing is called a scooter. It's only the first generation of product. Soon, an upgraded version will be released. Of course, Strange Taste Pavilion won't only sell scooters in the future. We'll also sell all kinds of novel things. If the princess likes it, I can give you one later." Changel said happily, "Thank you, brother Xiaoxian." At this moment, Wang Zhong came forward and reminded, "Young master, the auspicious time has arrived. Should we unveil the plaque and open for business now?" Many of them were parents who had been dragged over by their own brats. The brats were looking enviously at Lan and the others who were performing the skateboard formation. Li Zixuan felt that the time was about right, so he nodded and looked at Li Chengqian, saying, "Since this plaque was bought by Gao Ming, then let Gao Ming unveil it." Li Chengqian didn't refuse. He smiled and took the bamboo stick from Wang Zhong. He used his strength to pull off the red cloth on the plaque. This meant that Strange Taste Pavilion had officially opened for business. 3 bold and lively words, Strange Taste Pavilion, were seen in the middle of the plaque. Li Zixuan saw the beautiful lines of the 3 words, as if they were alive. He couldn't help but be shocked. He looked at Li Chengqian and couldn't help but ask, "Gao Ming, which famous writer wrote these 3 words?" Li Chengqian said proudly, "It wasn't easy for me to get Dr. Chu to write these words. Brother Zixuan, you have to thank me properly." Li Zixuan was stunned. It turned out to be Chu Suiliang. He was one of the 4 great calligraphers of the early Tang Dynasty, along with Ouyang Sun, Yu Shinan, and Xueji. This plaque could be a family heirloom in the future. Li Zixuan also heard a story about Chu Suiliang. It was said that the idiom "little bird depends on man" originated from Chu Suiliang. According to historical records, Li Shimin, Emperor Taizong of the Tang Dynasty, once talked about the officials in the imperial court. He commented on Chu Suiliang as follows: "Chu Suiliang is a bit more knowledgeable and has a strong character." He wrote loyal couplets such as "Little bird depends on man," adding love. Probably many people didn't think that the idiom "little bird depends on man" was first used on a very strong and straightforward official. Li Zixuan recovered from the shock and said, "Yes, we have to thank Gao Ming properly. This Dr. Chu's calligraphy is rare. Well, Strange Taste Pavilion has officially opened for business." "Hey, shopkeeper, is your shop selling this scooter?" After watching the scooter formation for so long, the crowd finally couldn't help but ask. They couldn't help but ask. Their little brats had been making a fuss. As soon as he finished asking, a group of people immediately followed behind him and echoed, "Yes, shopkeeper, are you selling it or not? How much? Give us a price. We are in a hurry." "Yes, yes. How much? I want to buy one." Li Zixuan went forward and cupped his hands. "Friends, of course we are selling this scooter. Today is the opening day of our shop. All the scooters are 10% off. The original price of a scooter is 400 copper coins. Today it is only 360 copper coins. We will also give you a white membership card. In the future, you can enjoy a 5% discount when you buy products in our shop with this card." The cost of a scooter was about 200 copper coins. Li Zixuan didn't want to sell it too expensive. 400 copper coins was about right. He would treat it as a gift for the Tang children. Hearing the price, the crowd started to talk about it. 360 copper coins? So expensive? Xiaohu, let's not buy it. Dad will make one for you when we go back. No, I want to buy this. Mom, I want to buy it too. Li Zixuan added at this time, "If you want to buy, hurry up and line up. Today there are only 300 scooters in the shop. First come, first serve. If you want to buy, hurry up." Now, the crowd didn't have the chance to hesitate. They all joined the line. Although 360 copper coins was a little expensive, most people could still afford it. If they didn't buy it today, they would be annoyed to death by their little brats. Li Zixuan saw that the scene was starting to become popular. He waved his hand and called Xiaoheng over. "Xiaoheng, take them on the scooters and walk around the entire East Market. Be careful, okay?" The shop didn't need to advertise anymore. Li Zixuan asked Xiaoheng and the others to go to the East Market to attract more people. "Yes, young master." Xiaoheng answered and rushed into the East Market with the 2 scooter teams. Chapter 73. The line outside the Strange Interest Pavilion was getting longer and longer. Many people were shopping in other places in the East Market when their children saw Xiaoheng's fleet of scooters. They cried and dragged them over to buy scooters. In less than an hour, there were only a few dozen scooters left out of the 300. Some people at the back of the line saw that it was not their turn, so they said unwillingly, "Manager, when will you have more scooters?" Li Zixuan thought for a while and said, "Tomorrow. For those who didn't buy one today, please come early tomorrow." It seemed that he had to ask Faubert to make more scooters because the children who bought the scooters today would advertise the strange interest pavilion for free as long as they came out to play with the scooters. When other children saw that their friends had such fun things but they didn't, they would definitely make a fuss and ask their parents to buy them. The sales of the strange interest pavilion scooters would only increase in the next few days. Less than an hour later, the 300 scooters were all sold out. Those who didn't manage to buy any scooters dragged their crying children back home. It was likely that these families wouldn't be able to have a peaceful night. Li Zixuan turned his head and smiled at them, saying, "This is a good start." "Smart, Chang'e," shouting, "it seems that as shareholders of the strange interest pavilion, you won't lose money, haha." It was Chang'e's first time doing business, so she was the most excited. She smiled and said, "Not only won't we not lose money, not only will we not suffer a loss, but at this rate, Strange Taste Pavilion's monthly income will be at least 1,000 strings of coins. By then, Chang'e will be able to save money to buy beautiful jewelry for mother." "Thank you, brother Xiaoxian. What a filial little girl." Li Qingqian couldn't help but rub her little head. Yan Xiaoning didn't care much about money. Although his family wasn't rich, they didn't lack money. Qing Chumo was a little depressed. When Li Zixuan was going to open the store, he wasn't in Chang'e and didn't catch the bus. However, he saw that the scooters were a little childish and seemed to be only suitable for children. He felt relieved and said, "Xiaoxian, although your scooters look interesting, they are only for children." "Who said so? This scooter can be slightly modified so that adults can also play with it," Li Zixuan replied. In his previous life, weren't there many college students who skateboard as well? Li Zixuan had even joined a skateboarding club during his undergraduate studies. "Who are you trying to fool? If Milord were to play with this, wouldn't he be a laughingstock? Haha. Brother Chonyo, don't doubt me. Wait a moment, I'll show you." Li Zixuan went straight into Chitsu Pavilion and went to the second floor to get a skateboard he made a few days ago. It was the kind of skateboard that didn't have a handle at the front. Qing Chumo was overjoyed when he saw Li Zixuan holding a broken wooden board without a handle. "Haha, little Xian, you're not talking about this thing in your hand, are you? It's just a broken wooden board. What's so fun about it? From what I see, it's not even as good as the scooters you sold before." Li Zixuan ignored this idiot and asked the waiter to bring over 4 stools. He placed them in front of the Chitsu Pavilion with a few feet between them. Li Zixuan then turned to Qing Chumo and said, "Brother Chonyo, watch carefully. Brother Chonyo, watch carefully. Don't be tempted to play this game too." Qing Chumo curled his lips and said with disdain, "Haha, whoever plays with this is a dog." Li Zixuan was furious, "Damn you! I don't have a sister. However, Xiaoxian, if you want, I can introduce one to you." Haha. Li Zixuan was speechless. Li Zixuan didn't want to talk nonsense. He set up the skateboard and stepped on it with one leg while the other leg pushed off the ground to increase his speed. Everyone saw Li Zixuan getting closer and closer to the stools on the ground. Their hearts were in their throats, and they couldn't help but worry for Li Zixuan. Just as he was about to hit the stools, Li Zixuan's entire body and the skateboard suddenly soared into the sky. He beautifully jumped over the stools and landed steadily. This guy even had time to strike a pose. Then, without slowing down, he jumped over the remaining 3 stools. After landing, he spun twice and stabilized himself. At this moment, there was already a circle of onlookers. Everyone saw Li Zixuan make a series of beautiful moves and land steadily. The onlookers all cheered loudly. "Wow, Brother Xiaoxian is so awesome. Chang'e clapped her hands excitedly. Li Zixuan and Yan Xiaoning were also dumbfounded by Li Zixuan's beautiful skills. Qing Chumo was a little dumbfounded. He didn't expect that a broken wooden board could be played with by Li Zixuan. However, Qing Chumo had always liked excitement. Now that he saw such a new way of playing, he couldn't help but want to try it. He ran to Li Zixuan's side and chuckled. "Aya, Xiaoxian, this thing of yours is pretty interesting. Let me play with it for a while. I guarantee that I'll play it better than you, haha." This guy completely forgot what he just said. He didn't care if Li Zixuan agreed or not. He directly pushed Li Zixuan away and took control of the skateboard. He also copied Li Zixuan's movement. He stepped on the skateboard with one foot and accelerated with the other. Needless to say, this guy's learning ability was pretty good. He actually copied Li Zixuan's movements by 70 to 80%. Everything went so smoothly. Feeling the wind-like speed, Qing Chumo was very proud. Just as Qing Chumo was about to get close to the bench, he let out a cheering "awoo." He also copied Li Zixuan's movements and jumped up. However, although he jumped up, the skateboard didn't. Qing Chumo also realized that something was wrong in the air. He quickly wanted to use his left foot to hook the skateboard up. However, at this time, he had already touched the bench. His whole body was tripped by the bench. With a bang, he beautifully fell down like a wild goose landing on the sand. He fell flat on his face, causing smoke and dust to rise around him. The field suddenly went silent for a few breaths of time. Then, there was a burst of laughter. Ha ha ha! Li Zixuan was the first one who couldn't hold it in. He pointed at Qing Chumo, who was sprawled on the ground, and laughed loudly. After a while, he laughed so hard that his stomach hurt. He couldn't help but bend down. Li Chengqian and Yan Xiaoning reacted and also laughed loudly. Chang'e covered her mouth and turned her head away to giggle. She laughed so hard that her eyes narrowed into slits. The crowd was still cheering for Li Zixuan's wonderful performance. In the blink of an eye, Qing Chumo, this funny guy, came up. The atmosphere changed too quickly. Everyone was stunned for a while before they couldn't help but burst into laughter. Qing Chumo was so embarrassed that he wanted to die. He didn't dare to raise his head and let others see his face. He wanted to find a hole to hide in so that he wouldn't embarrass the Qing family. However, there was someone who didn't let him do as he wished. At this time, a little girl's voice came from beside him. "Hey, isn't this Big Brother Chonyo? Big Brother Chonyo, what are you doing lying on the ground?" Lan Er brought her previous friends back to the strange interest pavilion. When she saw Qing Chumo lying on the ground, the little girl thought that there was something fun on the ground. She hurriedly stepped on the skateboard and ran over to ask curiously. At this moment, Qing Chumo only wanted to dig a hole and bury himself so that no one could see him. Chapter 74. Li Zixuan asked someone to bring the dusty Qing Chumo to the second floor to clean up. Then, he turned to look at Xiao Hang and the others and said with a smile, "Xiao Hang, your performance today was very good. You will all be rewarded. 3 treasures, 20 coins each." The 6 children quickly stepped forward and bowed to thank him. "Thank you, young master." Li Zixuan waved his hand with a smile and said, "This is what you deserve. Go back and tell your leader that I am very satisfied. If there is a chance next time, I will look for you to cooperate." The children happily received the reward, handed in the scooters, and were about to leave. However, they couldn't help but look back at the scooters a few times. Anyone could see the reluctance in their eyes. Although they had only played with the scooters for a day, they were completely fascinated by this novel toy. However, they definitely couldn't afford it, so they could only look at it a few more times. "Brother, those scooters are a little old. Anyway, we can't sell them. Why don't we give them to Xiao Hang and the others?" Lan Er gently tugged at Li Zixuan's arm and whispered. She had a lot of fun with these little friends today. Everyone took care of her. At this time, seeing that Xiao Hang and the others were reluctant to part with the scooters, Lan Er thought of an excuse to ask her brother to give them the scooters. However, how could Li Zixuan not see through this little trick? However, he didn't care about this small amount of money. If he gave it to them, then so be it. So, he rubbed Lan Er's little head and called Xiao Hang and the others back. He smiled and said, "Xiao Hang, this scooter is already old. It definitely can't be sold. I'll give it to you." The children were surprised, but Xiao Hang was more mature. He quickly bowed and said, "Young master, this is too expensive. Xiao Hang doesn't dare to accept it." My brother already said that he would give it to you. Take it quickly. My brother doesn't lack this little money." Lan Er finally persuaded her brother. Seeing that Xiao Hang refused again, the little girl quickly ran over and pushed the scooter to Xiao Hang's feet. Li Zixuan smiled and shook his head. In fact, he felt quite good. It felt good to be thanked by others. It was still good to be a tycoon. When Xiao Hang and the others saw that Li Zixuan did not object to Lan Er's words, they hesitated for a moment before taking the scooter. Xiao Hang happily bowed and thanked them. "Thank you, young master." "Thank you, Miss Lan Er. The next time young master opens the shop, we will perform for young master for free." Okay. The others nodded in agreement. Li Zixuan smiled and waved his hand. "Go back quickly. Be careful on the road." The children rode their scooters and left happily under the setting sun. Li Chengqian and the others saw that there was nothing else to do here, so they left. When Chang'e left, Li Zixuan specially gave her a pink scooter, which made the girl very happy. Yunxi Restaurant in a private room on the 3rd floor. "Your Imperial Highness, the crowd surrounding the Pavilion of Wonders has dispersed. The Crown Prince and Princess Chang'e have already left." A black-clothed imperial bodyguard bowed and reported to a luxuriously dressed little fatty seated at the head of the table. This little fatty was Li Tai. Today, he had come to capture Li Zixuan and bring him back to write a story. However, he had never expected that the Pavilion of Wonders would be surrounded by so many spectators. Immediately, Li Tai felt somewhat terrified. Although he was Li Er's most beloved imperial son, if he caused trouble in front of so many people, and if an imperial censor were to bring this matter to court, Li Er would definitely not let him off easily. Moreover, his elder brother and younger sister were both there. If they were to speak up for Li Zixuan, it would be difficult for him to do anything. As a result, he had imperial bodyguards keep an eye on the Pavilion of Wonders, while he himself went to the Yunxi Restaurant across the street. He ordered a table of dishes and sat there, eating as he waited for news. To his pleasant surprise, the Yunxi Restaurant actually had gnawed chicken. Although the taste was slightly inferior to that of the Drunken Immortal, compared to the other dishes of the restaurant, this knockoff version was clearly more delicious. The little fatty was so engrossed in eating that he had nearly forgotten the reason for his visit today. Only now did he hear the imperial bodyguard's report, did he remember that he had come to capture Li Zixuan. Li Tai belched and rubbed his round belly. With a sinister smile, he said, "Hee, since they've all left, it's time for us to take action. Zhao Yu, take a few men and quickly follow this prince. Don't let him escape." "Yes, sir." Pavilion of Wonders. Seeing that the eastern marketplace was about to close, Li Zixuan packed up his things and had the head steward support the bruised and battered Ching Chumo. He was about to close the door and return home. Just at this moment, a group of burly men blocked their path. Following this, an arrogant voice sounded out from behind them. "Which one of you is Li Zixuan? Hurry up and stand out for this prince." As soon as the voice fell, a fair and clean little fatty slowly walked out from behind the group of burly men. When Li Zixuan heard the child in front of him refer to himself as this prince and his tone was obviously unfriendly, he was shocked. However, he was not someone who was afraid of trouble. He squeezed Lan Er's small hand to reassure her, then stepped out from the crowd and said in a clear voice, "Your Highness, I am Li Zixuan." May I know why your highness is looking for this humble one? At this moment, Ching Chumo recognized the person. He asked in surprise, Prince Wei? When Li Tai heard that someone recognized him, he hurriedly looked in the direction of the voice. After a long while, he finally recognized that the bruised and battered person in front of him was Ching Chumo. He turned his head and glared at Zhao Yu. Ching Chumo was also here. How could the guard not report such important information? This was an injustice to the guard. Ching Chumo had injured himself while skateboarding and had been recuperating on the second floor, not daring to come out and embarrass himself. How could the guard know whether Ching Chumo was here or not? Although Li Tai was a prince, he was still quite wary of Ching Chumo. He thought to himself, it seems like I can't take her by force today. This was because he had heard that Li Zixuan had a good relationship with Ching Chumo. If he took her away in front of Ching Chumo, Li Er would definitely not let him off easily. Oh, so Chonyo is here too. Haha, what a coincidence, Li Tai said awkwardly. Ching Chumo could tell from Li Tai's first words that he did not come here with good intentions. He was probably here to cause trouble for Li Zixuan. Of course, he would support his brother at this time. Ching Chumo walked to Li Zixuan's side and patted Li Zixuan's shoulder hard. He laughed loudly at Li Tai. Today is the opening of my brother's new shop. Of course, I, old Ching, have to come to support. Haha. May I know why Prince of Wei is here today? The Crown Prince and the Princess just left. He pretended to be close and deliberately mentioned Li Chengqian and Chang'e. Naturally, he implied that he wanted to intimidate Li Tai and remind him not to deliberately make things difficult for Li Zixuan. He was usually a simple-minded person, but that was just because he did not want to use his brain. But today, his good brother was in danger. He had to use his brain to help. Although he could defeat this group of people, he would definitely cause trouble for his father after the fight. How could Li Tai not hear the hidden meaning in Ching Chumo's words? Even though he knew that Ching Chumo was speaking the truth, he, Li Tai, would not be threatened by anyone other than Li Er and Chang Sun. At this moment, Li Tai said with a fake smile, Oh, Chonyo, are you representing your Ching family to stand against this prince? Ching Chumo was momentarily speechless. Regarding the issue of a prince's side, he naturally could not represent his father. He did not know what to do when Li Tai used his power to suppress others. Your Highness Prince of Wei must be joking. Brother Chonyo was only joking. Your Highness Prince of Wei should not take it to heart. May I know why your Highness is looking for this commoner today? Li Zixuan could not sit still when he saw his good brother stand up for him. Thus, he stepped forward to help Ching Chumo out of his predicament. Chapter 75. East Market, in front of Strange Interest Pavilion. When Li Tai saw someone come forward to admit it, he looked at Li Zixuan and asked proudly, Did you write Journey to the West? What did this have to do with Journey to the West? Li Zixuan was a little puzzled, but he still nodded and admitted, Journey to the West was indeed written by me. What does your Highness mean by this? Well, I'm here to find you. There's a good job here. I want you to be my guest. In the future, you will write stories like Journey to the West for me. Your monthly salary will be 20 strings of coins. How about it? This is much more promising than your shabby shop. Li Tai said with a look of superiority and pride. In his opinion, the shabby shop in front of him could at most earn 10 strings of coins a month. How could it be as good as writing stories for him? He was not like that poor Li Chengqian. Li Er and Zhang Sun had always doted on him and gave him a lot of rewards every month. Therefore, he had the money to keep a guest. Ching Chumo was speechless. Although he did not directly participate in the operation today, he saw everything. The daily turnover of Strange Interest Pavilion was more than 100 strings of coins. After deducting the cost, the profit was at least 40 to 50 strings of coins. He really did not know where Li Tai's confidence came from. Li Zixuan looked at the little fatty who was flaunting his wealth and superiority in front of him, and the corner of his mouth twitched. He wanted to tell Li Tai that he would give him 40 strings of coins a month as long as he stopped bothering him. But after thinking about it, he felt that this would be too hurtful. Li Tai would probably be angry, so he did not say it. Li Zixuan could only say tactfully, "I'm afraid I'll have to disappoint your highness. This humble one is undisciplined and only wants to stay at home and open a shop. I have no intention of becoming a guest of the prince's residence." Li Tai was standing there waiting for Li Zixuan to agree, but he did not expect Li Zixuan to reject him without hesitation. He was very angry and secretly thought that this brat really did not know how to appreciate favors. Li Tai, who had been living a smooth life since he was young, was a little embarrassed at this moment. He said with an ugly expression, "Are you sure?" Li Zixuan knew that this little fatty was going to get angry, but he was sure that Li Tai did not dare to do anything to him. He was doing legal business, and did not do anything to steal chickens and dogs. Tang Chu's governance was relatively clear, so he was not afraid that he would use his identity to avenge private wrongs. Moreover, Ching Chumo was still standing next to him, so his heart was not afraid. Li Zixuan nodded affirmatively. "I'm sure." When Li Tai heard this, he was so angry that he laughed. "Good, very good. Do you think this king can't do anything to you? This prince heard that you and Yan Xiaoning, the son of Minister Yan, have a workshop. The craftsmen in the workshop were all from the General Works Directorate. Tell me, if this prince were to ask Imperial Father to bestow those craftsmen to me, do you think Imperial Father will agree?" "You!" Ching Chumo was angry when he heard this, and was about to step forward to argue, but Li Zixuan quickly pulled him back. Ching Chumo had already helped him enough, so he could not drag Ching Chumo down with the rest of the matter. What Li Tai had just said was indeed the weakness of Strange Taste Pavilion. The status of craftsmen in this era was very low, so Li Er would not refuse Li Tai's pleas for a group of craftsmen. If that happened, the foundation of Strange Taste Pavilion would be shaken. Even if Li Zixuan had countless inventions that could make money, without craftsmen, he could not make them. Everything would be in vain. Strange Taste Pavilion was very important in the future, so Li Zixuan absolutely would not allow this to happen. This little fatty's move was really ruthless. Li Zixuan's mind raced. Since force did not work, then he could only use soft method. This Prince of Wei was actually making things difficult for him today just because of a book, Journey to the West. It was clear that he was still somewhat of a child. Moreover, it was said that Li Tai was full of talent and was extremely arrogant. Li Zixuan suddenly thought of a plan and smiled. "I can write a book for your highness, but I have heard that your highness is very knowledgeable. You are proficient in calligraphy, painting, the classics, and arithmetic. I wonder if your highness can answer a few questions of this commoner?" When Li Tai heard Li Zixuan praise him like a flower, a trace of pride flashed across his face. This was where he, Li Tai, was more awesome than the crown prince. He was full of talent, so Li Tai doted on him. When he heard that Li Zixuan wanted him to answer a question, Li Tai frowned. Even though he was very talented, who knew what questions Li Zixuan would ask? He was not stupid. Why would he agree? Now that he had the absolute advantage, there was no need to complicate matters. "Why should this prince answer your question?" Li Tai's face was full of arrogance. This little fatty was not old, but he was quite smart. Li Zixuan had already guessed that he would not agree so easily. He clasped his hands behind his back and smiled. "If your highness insists on forcing me to write a story, even if I write one, it will definitely not be as exciting as Journey to the West. Your highness will not be satisfied with it. How about this? I will ask 10 questions. As long as your highness can answer one of them, I am willing to write for your highness for 3 years without any salary. Furthermore, the story I write will be even more exciting than Journey to the West." However, if your Highness cannot answer a single question, then please do not make things difficult for Strange Taste Pavilion in the future. How about it? Disdain. This was blatant disdain. Even though Li Tai knew that Li Zixuan's questions would be extremely difficult, he was proud of his talent. How could he not be able to answer even one question out of 10? Li Zixuan had successfully angered him. Furthermore, Li Zixuan's first half of the sentence was reasonable. Even if he used his power to force Li Zixuan to write a story for him, if Li Zixuan was unwilling, then the story he wrote would definitely not be good. Then everything he did would be meaningless. Alright, then it's a deal. If you lose, then you have to write a story for this prince for 3 years. But your question must have an answer, otherwise it won't count. Although Li Tai was enraged, he still retained his rationality. If Li Zixuan asked questions that he had no answer to, such as how many hairs a person had on his head, how could he answer? This little fatty doesn't know that, as the saying goes, virtue is 1 foot tall, the devil is 10 feet tall. He was still too inexperienced. Li Zixuan simply nodded and agreed. Of course. How would this humble one dare to maliciously make things difficult for your Highness? At this time, Lan Er pulled Li Zixuan's arm worriedly. Li Zixuan smiled at her and shook his head, indicating that he was fine and not to worry. He was someone who had experienced the information explosion of the 21st century. He didn't believe that this little fatty would be able to answer a few random questions. Li Tai nodded his head in satisfaction and called for the guards behind him to bring him a stool. After standing for so long, he was a little tired. He sat down on the stool and raised his chin at Li Zixuan, saying, Li Zixuan, if that's the case, quickly ask any questions you have. This prince is anxious for you to write a story for me. Ha! Li Tai was confident that he would not lose. Just thinking that he would be able to read a story better than Journey to the West made him happy. However, he never expected that he would soon be tortured to the point of doubting his life. Chapter 76. Since Li Tai couldn't wait to be abused, Li Zixuan naturally had to satisfy the little fatty's wish. Li Zixuan walked 2 steps with his hands behind his back and slowly said, Then, Your Highness, please listen to the first question. What are paper and paper afraid of? Li Tai laughed and said, Such a simple question. Li Zixuan, you're bound to lose. Haha, paper and paper are of course afraid of fire. It seems that you're bound to be a follower of the prince's residence. Li Zixuan shook his head and said lightly, Your Highness, you've answered incorrectly. Li Tai said in disbelief, Is there another answer? I think you're deliberately acting shamelessly. If you can't give a convincing answer today, I won't forgive you. Li Zixuan ignored his threat and said with a smile, Haha, I don't know if Your Highness has heard of the saying, Don't paper, fear 10,000 only, paper, fear what if. The answer to this question is in this sentence, so I said that Your Highness has answered incorrectly. Ching Chumo was stunned for a moment when he heard the answer. Then, he almost laughed out loud. He didn't expect Li Zixuan to be so mischievous and come up with such a tricky question. The people of the Tang Dynasty had never heard of a brain teaser. Li Tai was stunned for a moment before he reacted and said angrily, You're playing word games. It's just a small trick. I've already understood the trick of your question. Quickly come up with the next question. Haha, you think you've understood, but you don't know that you've just fallen into a big hole. Li Zixuan disagreed and continued, Then, Your Highness, please listen to the second question. From 1 to 9, which number is the most hard-working and which number is the laziest? Li Tai stood up and scratched his head. After thinking for a long time, he still couldn't think of anything. Li Zixuan reminded him from the side, Don't worry. Your Highness, hurry up. It's getting late. Li Tai waved his hand and said impatiently, This king can't think of anything. You win this question. Quickly tell me the answer. Replying to Your Highness, the answer to this question is 1. The laziest, 2. the most hard-working. As for the reason, I don't know if your highness has heard of the saying, 1 does not do 2 does not rest, he. Another word game. Li Tai slapped his head in annoyance. He didn't think that he would make the same mistake twice. These two questions were very simple. He just had to start from the words themselves and find some idioms related to the questions. Then, he would be able to relate them to the questions. Li Tai warned himself that he could not give Li Zixuan another chance. After summing up the lessons of his two failures and making up his mind, Li Tai regained a bit of his confidence and said, "Let's continue with the next question. This king does not believe that I will make the same mistake a third time." Li Zixuan chuckled. He also knew that these two brain teasers were very easy for people to find a way to solve the questions. With Li Tai's intelligence, he must have found a way to deal with such questions. However, he did not plan on continuing with this question with Li Tai. He wanted to change the topic. He did not believe that Li Tai would be able to guess it. Since your highness is so confident, then please listen to the third question. May I ask why frogs can jump higher than trees? After Li Tai heard the question, he quickly searched his mind for an idiom or idiom related to frogs and trees. However, he could not think of anything. He could not help but feel anxious. Seeing that Li Zixuan was about to rush him again, he said angrily, "This king does not know. Quickly tell me the answer." Seeing the little fatty in front of him so anxious, Li Zixuan found it quite interesting. He chuckled and said, "Why can frogs jump higher than trees? That's because frogs can jump. Trees can't jump. Of course they can jump higher than trees." Ching Chumo's face turned red. He could not hold it in any longer and finally laughed out loud. Li Tai was furious. "You are twisting words. You are clearly asking why frogs can jump higher than trees." Li Zixuan spread his hands and said with a smile, "Yes, that's what I asked. Is there a problem with the answer?" Li Tai carefully thought over Li Zixuan's question twice. Only then did he realize that there were actually two ways to understand the question. He had walked into the wrong line of thought from the beginning. This was another word game. However, Li Zixuan changed the way he played and he was tricked again. However, he could not say that there was a problem with Li Zixuan's answer. If you agree to bet, you must accept defeat. Li Tai still had gambling morals. At this moment, Li Tai was somewhat like a gambler. He said unwillingly, "You win this question. Continue to the next question." Li Zixuan originally thought that this little fatty was going to act shamelessly. He did not expect him to admit defeat so straightforwardly. He could not help but look at him in a higher light. He continued, "Well then, your highness, please listen to the fourth question. May I ask what part of a person's body is hard to lick and hard to not lick? If you want to sleep comfortably, you must first rub it." When Ching Chumo heard this, he staggered and almost fell to the ground. The first thing he thought of was a man's little brother. He really did not expect Li Zixuan to be so dirty. However, Lan was still here. Was it really appropriate for Li Zixuan to ask such a question? Ching Chumo looked at Lan worriedly. Li Tai's first thought was also a man's little brother. Although he was not even 10 years old, he was a member of the royal family. At this age, what did he not know? At that moment, he wanted to blurt out the answer. However, when he saw Lan beside Li Zixuan, he could not bring himself to say it. He could not help but curse Li Zixuan's shamelessness in his heart. In order to win, he actually came up with such a dirty question. If there were only the few of them here, Li Tai would definitely not have any scruples. However, there was also a delicate little girl like Lan. He really could not bear to say it out loud. Li Tai's face turned red. In the end, he could only say angrily, "You are shameless. I can't answer, but I don't believe that you dare to say the answer." Looking at Li Tai's and Ching Chumo's reactions, Li Zixuan knew that these two fellows had misunderstood. The thoughts of these ancient people were not pure. Li Zixuan thought in his heart. Haha, Your Highness, what are you saying? Why would I not dare to say it? The answer to this question is teeth. Looking at Your Highness and Cho Ox's reactions, could it be that you have misunderstood? Lan asked curiously. Brother Cho Ox, what answer were you thinking of? Ching Chumo's face turned red as he said awkwardly, I didn't misunderstand. The answer I was thinking of was teeth. Yes, teeth. Lan looked curiously at Li Tai. Li Tai hurriedly waved his hand and said, This king did not think of an answer. This question is my loss. Li Zishuan quickly come up with the next question. This made it seem like he was trying to hide something. Lan Er's gaze turned even more suspicious, but she did not dare to ask. The impression Li Tai gave her previously was too fierce. Li Zishuan said with a smile, Your Highness has already lost 4 questions. Do you really want to continue? He was afraid that if this carried on, Li Tai would fly into a rage out of humiliation. That would not be good. The best outcome would be for Li Tai to take the initiative to end the bet, allowing everyone to reconcile. However, he had underestimated the persistence of a gambler. Li Tai said with reddened eyes, Continue. Why? Are you afraid that this king will go back on his word? He, Li Tai, had never suffered such a huge loss. He had to turn the tables, otherwise it would be too embarrassing. All right, in that case, let's continue. Li Zishuan said helplessly. Chapter 77. Looking at Li Tai's attitude, it seemed like he would not turn back until he hit a wall. Li Zishuan could only give him a hand and let him hit his head until he bled. Your Highness, please listen to the 5th question. Before I ask, I want to know if Your Highness has heard of Ode of Mulan? Li Tai nodded. Of course I have. Ode of Mulan, also known as Poem of Mulan, was a narrative poem written during the northern and southern dynasties in China. It told the folk story of the heroine Hua Mulan, who replaced her father in the army. The poem was written in the Northern Wei dynasty. It was originally recorded in the Southern Qin dynasty's ancient and modern music records. It was about 300 words long and was later embellished by scholars in the Sui and Tang dynasties. Li Tai was well-read, so of course, he had seen this poem before. It's good that Your Highness has heard of it. The 5th question is, why was Hua Mulan, who had been in the army for 18 years, so surprised when she changed into women's clothing? Li Tai replied matter-of-factly, wasn't it because her companions had never seen her in women's clothing before? Li Zishuan shook his head. Wrong, it was because her companions thought that it was more appropriate for her to wear men's clothing. Li Tai was speechless. He really wanted to curse in his heart, but he did not know if he should say it. Ptha! Tisk! Ching Chumo could not take it any more. He laughed loudly, but tragically, the wound on his face was torn. Lan covered her mouth when she heard this funny answer. She could not help but giggle. Li Tai said with a dark face, Continue, next question. Next question. Next question. As time passed, Li Tai's face became darker and darker. However, he couldn't help but listen to the next question every time. Putting aside the gambling, Li Zishuan's questions were all very novel, and the answers to each question were even more unexpected. He was like an opium addict. Although he knew that he would lose if he continued like this, he could not help but want to listen to the next question and the answer to the next question. Your Highness, this is the last question. Please listen carefully. After Li Zishuan finished, he sighed in relief. He was finally going to get rid of this troublesome fatty. Wait! Hearing that this was the last question, Li Tai was startled and quickly interrupted. He frowned, thought for a moment and said, That's right. For the last question, you are not allowed to come up with such a crooked question. You must come up with a proper question. If he really couldn't answer a single question, then wouldn't his reputation be ruined? Although Li Tai liked those strange questions, it didn't mean that he was willing to lose the bet. Li Zishuan looked at Li Tai's face, which was as black as the bottom of a pot. He didn't want to push this little fatty too far. I heard that your highness is also proficient in mathematics. How about I give you an arithmetic question for the last question? Hey, since this little fatty is looking for a beating, then don't blame me. I can also play you to death with a proper question, Li Zixuan thought insidiously. Li Tai was energized. He was quite confident in mathematics. He didn't believe that Li Zixuan would be able to stump him. Okay, then it's an arithmetic question. Quickly give me the question. Your Highness, please listen to the 10th question. Let's say that our Tang Empire wants to attack the Turk. We need to transport 100,000 dan of grain from Qin province to the front line of Feng province. If we travel by water, we will lose 300 dan of grain for every 100 li. If we travel by land, we will lose 500 dan of grain for every 100 li. If the grain transport army travels a total of 1,000 li by water and land, they will have 95,800 dan of grain left. May I ask your highness, how many li did the grain transport army travel by water and land? Li Zixuan casually came up with a two-variable linear equation. As for higher-order equations, he didn't bother. He was afraid that Li Tai wouldn't be able to understand it. Although this question wasn't as strange as the previous one, it was still difficult for the ancient people. The people of the Tang Dynasty didn't have the concept of equations. Li Tai furrowed his brows. This question was open and aboveboard. He tested all the hypotheses in his mind one by one. Gradually, sweat appeared on his forehead. After a long time, he still couldn't find the correct answer. Li Zixuan reminded him, Your Highness, the East Market will be closed soon. Li Tai looked at the sky and said unwillingly, If I have another 2 hours, I will definitely be able to find the correct answer. Li Zixuan smiled and said, Your Highness, the correct answer to this question is 400 li by water and 600 li by land. I can find the correct answer in 3 breaths. Li Tai subconsciously put Li Zixuan's answer into the question to check. He found that it was correct, but he still couldn't believe it. You must have calculated the answer in advance. That's why you can say it so quickly. If your highness doesn't believe me, you can change a few numbers in the question. Let's see if I can find the answer in 3 breaths. If I can't, I will lose today's bet. Alright, that's what you said. Then, this prince will change the remaining provisions to 96,500 dan. You can calculate how many li we have traveled by water and land respectively. Li Tai changed a number casually. He didn't believe that Li Zixuan could find the answer in 3 breaths. Li Zixuan's mental strength was far beyond that of ordinary people. As soon as Li Tai finished speaking, he immediately got the answer in his mind. Your Highness, the soldiers traveled 750 li by water and 250 li by land. So fast. It didn't even take a breath. Li Tai was shocked. He quickly put Li Zixuan's answer into the question to check. A moment later, Li Tai's eyes widened and he muttered, It's completely correct. How is this possible? Even Dr. Liu from the Imperial College can't do it. Although Qing Chumo didn't know how to calculate, seeing Li Tai's reaction, he knew that his good brother had calculated correctly. He couldn't help but change his understanding of Li Zixuan. He thought to himself, It's fine if his martial arts are better than mine, but why is he smarter than me? How am I supposed to live in the future? When Li Tai wanted to compete with Li Zixuan in mathematics, Lan wasn't worried at all. She still remembered Li Zixuan's heroic performance in the clothing store. Your Highness, what about today's bet? Seeing Li Tai in a daze, Li Zixuan asked worriedly. Li Tai had been tortured miserably today. He waved his hand dispiritedly and said, I lost. A bet is a bet. This king will not make things difficult for your strange interest pavilion in the future. Thank you, Your Highness, for keeping your promise. We'll take our leave now. Li Zixuan admired this little fatty's character of being willing to admit defeat and keeping his promises. Wait, are you really not willing to write a story for me? If you have any requests, you can tell me. I'll consider it. Li Tai was still unwilling to give up, but his tone was no longer as arrogant as before. Not only was this person in front of him good at writing stories, he was also quite talented and had strange ideas. He was a smart and interesting person. Li Tai really wanted to rope him in as a guest of the palace. Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "Sorry, this humble one's ambition does not lie in this." Looking at the little fatty's disappointed expression, he also felt that Li Tai's tone was no longer as arrogant as before. He thought to himself that this fatty was just a child spoiled by his parent. Li Zixuan then added, "But in my free time I'll write some stories. When the time comes, I'll engrave them into books and sell them at Strange Interest Pavilion." Li Tai's eyes lit up and he said with a smile, "Okay, I'll definitely get someone to buy a few books, but you must tell me about your learning skills in the future. I'll definitely treat you well." Li Zixuan smiled and said, "Of course." The few of them bade farewell. Li Zixuan looked at the sky and estimated that the market would close in a few minutes. He let Wang Zhong take Lan back first. He quickly walked to Strange Interest Pavilion's workshop and happened to meet Faubert, who was preparing to go home. He asked Faubert about the progress of the curved plows. Faubert smiled and said, "Young master, the 20 curved plows you wanted have all been made. They're just waiting for you to send someone to take them away tomorrow. I'll go to the manor with you tomorrow to see how effective the curved plows are." Li Zixuan nodded and said, "Okay, that's good. I'll send someone to take these curved plows away tomorrow." At this moment, Faubert seemed to have thought of something and said, "Oh, that's right. Young master, the roller bearings you mentioned before have been made in the workshop. Now we can make roller bearings of various sizes." Li Zixuan was overjoyed and said with a smile, "That's great. After I'm done with this, I'll give Faubert a blueprint. Faubert can help me build a carriage with roller bearings for all the parts that need to be rotated." Li Zixuan was very happy that there was finally hope for the luxurious carriage that he had been longing for. Faubert smiled and said, "Okay, no problem." Chapter 78. As night fell, all of Chang'an was shrouded in darkness. Because of the curfew, all the streets were dark except for the brothels. After dinner, the people of Chang'an went to bed. The entire city seemed to have fallen asleep, but some people were still awake. The Taiji Palace in the Imperial Palace was still brightly lit. Since the dynasty had just been established, there were many things that Li Er needed to decide. He would read memorials until very late every night. But what he was holding now was a memorial written by a courtier. He not afraid of 10,000, but just in case. Why does this kid have so many strange things in his head? Li Er looked at the secret report in his hand and shook his head with a smile. Li Zixuan would never have thought that he would enter Li Er's sight again after the nibbled chicken incident. Haha, Qingke has been talented since she was a child. I didn't expect that she would suffer such a big loss today. But it's good for her to suffer some setbacks. But Li Zixuan is really interesting. Of course, Li Er wouldn't hold a grudge against Li Zixuan for his son's humiliation outside. His daughter was raised in a rich family while his son was raised in a poor family. Li Er had always adopted a let nature take its course attitude towards his sons. They could compete with each other, they could fight each other, but they couldn't cross that red line. Even if one of his sons was bullied, they could find a way to get back at him. Li Er would never stand up for him. Looking at the novel questions and unexpected answers on the secret report, the smile on Li Er's face grew wider and wider. However, when he read the last question, the smile on Li Er's face suddenly froze, and his face gradually became solemn. Li Er's face darkened and he asked the guard in black in front of him, "Li Zixuan really calculated the answer in one breath?" The guard quickly bowed and said, "Your Majesty, it's absolutely true." Li Er waved his hand and asked the guard to leave. He turned around and clenched the secret report in his hand. The last question had touched the ambition that had been hidden in his heart for a long time. After the incident at the Xuanwu Gate last year, the great Tang was in a state of turmoil. The Turkic Khaganate sent out an army of 100,000 and took advantage of the situation to invade. Like a hot knife through butter, the Turkic Khaganate actually managed to reach Jingyang, which was only 40 li away from Chang'an, shaking the entire capital. At that time the enemy was strong and we were weak. Li Er was forced to set up a deceptive tactic. He personally led Gao Shilian, Fang Xianling and the others, 6 riders, to the Wei River and spoke with Xieli across the Wei River. In the end, the Turks retreated. Not only did they take away 30,000 Han slaves, they also received the promise of non-aggression from Emperor Li Er. All the treasures in Chang'an's treasury were emptied. These smug bandits left Yuanzhou state and fled into the vast grassland from Huayuan. Perhaps later generations would praise Li Er for not being afraid in the face of danger and crafting a clever plan to set up the Wei River Alliance, winning a chance for the Great Tang to breathe. But in Li Er's view, the so-called Wei River Alliance was the shame of his life. All those years ago, he, Li Er, had followed his father to Taiyuan County and experienced 100 battles before finally conquering the world. When had he ever suffered such humiliation? Li Er still remembered that after the Turks retreated, Cheng Yaojin held his handwritten letter and knelt on the ground like a child, wailing loudly. Tens of thousands of soldiers put on their armor and knelt in front of the commander's tent. Several valiant generals requested to go to war, determined to wash away the humiliation brought by the Wei River Alliance with blood. Although the Great Tang had just been established, from the emperor to the people, there was a pride in their bones, a pride of being a Tang person. If the emperor was humiliated, the officials would die. If the emperor was humiliated, the people would die. In an instant, the entire country, from the generals to the people, was filled with fighting spirit. They all swore to take revenge for their emperor. But at that time, the Great Tang army was weak. Their equipment was not complete, their provisions were not sufficient, and there were many rebellions. Tufan and Tuyuhun were eyeing them covetously. Li Er could only grit his teeth and swallow it down. For a gentleman to take revenge, 10 years was not too late. He swore in his heart that once the rebels in the country were wiped out and the soldiers were strong enough, he would hunt the grassland with everyone and fight to the death with the Turk. Today, seeing Li Zishuan give the last question to Li Tai, Li Er's heart was unable to calm down for a long time. Speaking of Li Zishuan, Li Er could not help but think of the conversation he had with Cheng Yaojin 2 days ago in Taiji Palace. Jijia, how has second brother Qin been recently? Li Er sat on the dragon throne, his face full of concern. Qin Shubao had followed him on many bloody campaigns and had saved his life several times. Thus, Li Er had always been very grateful to Qin Shubao. Even after he became the emperor, he still called Qin Shubao second brother Qin in private. Your Majesty, second brother Qin had many hidden injuries in his early years. Now that he is old, the injuries have flared up, and his body is getting worse by the day. A few years ago, second brother could still beat me in martial arts, but a few days ago, I went to the Qin residence to see second brother. Second brother, Your Majesty, I am heartbroken. As Cheng Yaojin spoke, he could not help but beat his chest and cry. This old general of the Great Tang had once faced countless powerful enemies without batting an eyelid. Now that he saw his best brother's body getting worse, he could not help but cry. Men did not cry easily, but they had not yet been deeply hurt. Li Er's eyes were also moist. He was silent for a while, then said in a low voice, Jijie, do not be sad. I will have Dao's son go to the Qin residence to take a look at second brother Qin. As long as it can alleviate second brother Qin's pain, I am willing to have people find it, no matter how precious the medicine is. Cheng Yaojin hurriedly expressed his gratitude. I thank your Majesty on behalf of second brother. Li Er sighed and said, Ah, time flies. Sigh, time is unforgiving. Seeing all of you brothers who had followed me to conquer the world grow old day by day, I don't feel good in my heart. When our generation is old, who can help Qingqian protect the great Tang? Your Majesty, there are talented people in every generation. The children and grandchildren have their own fortune. There are also many loyal and brave people in the younger generation. Qing Yaojin spoke a rare literary sentence. Li Er shook his head and said, Jijia, the younger generation is relying on their parents' influence. How many of them are successful? Qing Yaojin thought for a while, then suddenly smiled and said, Your Majesty, I met a young man a few days ago. I sparred with him, and found that his martial arts were on par with mine. Li Er's eyes lit up, and he asked with interest, Oh, how old is that young man? He should only be 14. What? Li Er was truly shocked. Although martial arts depended on talent, it could not be without the accumulation of time. Qing Yaojin had been through hundreds of battles, and his martial arts were at least in the top 10 of the generals of the Great Tang. Now that Qing Yaojin said that a 14-year-old young man was on par with him, how could Li Er not be shocked? How can a 14-year-old young man be on par with Jijie in martial arts? How come I have never heard of such a young talent in Chang'an? Your Majesty, it is true. This person is called Li Zixuan. He lives in Chang'an's Yongla Lane. He was on good terms with my son, so I met him. Li Zixuan? This name was so familiar. Li Er stood up, frowned, and walked 2 steps before he suddenly remembered. Is it Li Zixuan who invented the chicken nibbling technique? Hearing about the chicken nibbling technique, Qing Yaojin subconsciously licked his lips and said, Yes, it is him. Your Majesty, do you know him before? Li Er did not answer him, and said, I only heard that he went to Mount Longhu to learn martial arts for 8 years, but I did not expect his martial arts to be so strong. Qing Yaojin explained, Your Majesty, Li Zixuan was spiritual master Lingshu's disciple, so it is not strange that his martial arts are so outstanding. Li Er was a little absent-minded and muttered, I see. Your Majesty, it is late. I beg your Majesty to rest early. The old eunuch Zhao Song cautiously came forward to persuade him. Li Er collected his thoughts, nodded, and was about to leave when he suddenly turned his head and ordered, Zhao Song, ask Baiqi to pay more attention to Li Zixuan. I want to know more about him. Yes, Your Majesty. This young man's martial arts were strong, but he was also very smart. He was quite accomplished in mathematics. If he was a talented general, then he should be nurtured. The younger generation of the empire needed a leader. Even if he was not a talented general, he could be transferred to the army as a clerk. If he was in charge of the allocation of provisions, it would probably reduce a lot of losses on the journey. It was time to find an opportunity to transfer this young man into the army and train him well. Li Er thought so. Chapter 79. The next day, Li Zixuan didn't laze around in bed. He got up early. He still had to go to the Han village to deliver the plow today. As for the business of Chitsu Pavilion, Li Zixuan had already told his father last night to send a reliable shopkeeper to take care of it today. Chitsu Pavilion's reputation had already spread yesterday, so the rest of the work just had to be done step by step. Li Zixuan didn't need to stay there every day. It was best for him to be a shopkeeper who didn't do anything. Before Li Zixuan ate breakfast, he asked San Bao to quickly go to the carriage house to hire 4 carriages that were specially used to transport goods. San Bao didn't go with Steward Wang to buy chicken seedlings today. Li Zixuan asked Wang Zhong to take Fu with him. He wanted San Bao to go with him to the village today. After breakfast, he went to the door to see if San Bao had returned. In the end, he didn't see San Bao. Instead, he saw Ching Chumo. Hey Chonyo, why are you here? After Ching Chumo went back with a bloody nose and a swollen face last night, He naturally couldn't avoid being interrogated by Qing Yaojin. When old Qing saw him like that, he thought that he had run out to fight with someone again. Qing Chumo explained for a long time before Qing Yaojin reluctantly believed him. He glared at him angrily. Useless thing. How can you fall like this from playing with a lousy carriage? You're really embarrassing me. Qing Chumo also knew that he had lost a lot of face this time, so he stood there silently and didn't dare to talk back. Who knew that Qing Yaojin would continue to say, "Another day, ask Xiao Xian to make one for me. I want to see what kind of carriage can make you fall like this." Qing Chumo cursed in his heart. "I'm afraid that when the time comes, you'll fall even more miserably than me." Qing Chumo suddenly remembered something this morning. Yesterday, he had planned to ask Li Zixuan why his family was buying so many chicken seedlings. However, he fell down and forgot about it. Therefore, he came to look for Li Zixuan right after breakfast. At this time, he saw Li Zixuan at the door. Qing Chumo wanted to pull him to a corner and ask him about it. "What are you doing? What are you doing? Pulling and pulling in broad daylight, what kind of scandal is this?" Li Zixuan saw that Qing Chumo didn't say anything and came to pull him. Suddenly, his chrysanthemum tightened. He was not gay. He quickly slapped away Qing Chumo's claws. Qing Chumo's face was full of black lines. "Little Xian, what are you thinking? I have something important to discuss with you. Come here quickly." "Oh, you should have said so earlier. Come in and talk. It's not appropriate to talk outside." Li Zixuan tidied up his clothes and brought Qing Chumo to the front hall. After the two sat down, Qing Chumo couldn't wait to say, "Little Xian, I'm here to ask you something today. Don't fool me." Li Zixuan took a sip of tea and said casually, "What's the matter?" Qing Chumo leaned over and asked in a low voice, "Little Xian, why did your family buy so many chicken seedlings yesterday? How do you know?" Li Zixuan was shocked and asked hurriedly, "Hey, there are only so many things happening in Chang, and all year long. How can you hide such a small thing? Those who are observant will know as long as they pay attention. Little Xian, tell me honestly, why did you buy so many chicken seedlings? Will the price of chicken increase next year? Do you know that you've almost emptied all the chicken seedlings in Chang'an?" Qing Chumo laughed sinisterly. As long as there was profit to be made, he also wanted to go back and ask his father to buy a batch of chicken seedlings. Hearing Qing Chumo's question, Li Zixuan fell silent. He couldn't tell anyone about the locust plague prophecy. Not only would no one believe him, but his family would also be in trouble. However, he couldn't tell Qing Chumo nothing. This guy was the first brother he had made since he came to the Tang Empire. From the previous few things, Qing Chumo was the kind of person who would sacrifice himself for a brother in a critical moment. Maybe he could give him a hint. After hesitating for a long time, Li Zixuan asked, "Chonyo, how many fields do you have in your family?" Qing Chumo was stunned by the question. He didn't know why Li Zixuan asked him this, but he still answered, "I'm not too sure about this. It should be about 5,000 mu." "Little Xian, why do you ask so much?" This was a big landlord. Li Zixuan sighed in his heart. He estimated that the locust plague next year would cause even more losses for his family. At this moment, he suddenly looked at Qing Chumo seriously and said in an extremely serious tone, "Chonyo, if you really believe me, then go back and ask Uncle Qing to buy more chicken seedlings for your family to feed. As for the specific reason, I really can't tell you now. In June next year, you'll know why. In short, if you really believe me, then do as I say. Don't worry, I, Li Zixuan, will never harm my own brother." Qing Chumo was also shocked by Li Zixuan's serious expression. After Li Zixuan finished speaking, he carefully pondered over Li Zixuan's words in his heart, but still couldn't figure out the reason. However, the second half of Li Zixuan's words did make sense. Qing Chumo also firmly believed that Li Zixuan wouldn't harm him. "Little Xian, since you have difficulties that you can't tell me, I won't force you. When I go back, I'll try my best to persuade my father. I believe that you won't harm your own brother. I, Ching Chumo, may not be as smart as those literati, but I'm quite good at judging people. Li Zixuan smiled. Thank you for your trust, Chonyo. In June next year, you'll definitely be rewarded generously. Young Master, the carriages are here. Young Master Yen is also here to look for you. San Bao suddenly came in to report. Li Zixuan nodded and quickly walked out. As expected, 4 carriages were parked in the courtyard. Yen Xiaoning was also here. Brother Xiaoning, you're here. Yes, I shouldn't be late. Chon Yo is here too? Yen Xiaoning was surprised when he saw Ching Chumo coming out with Li Zixuan. Little Xiaoning, where are you guys going with so many carriages? Ching Chumo couldn't help but ask curiously when he saw so many carriages and heard Yen Xiaoning's words. It seemed that they were going out today. Li Zixuan explained to Ching Chumo since there was nothing to hide about the curved shaft plow. Little Xian, is this curved shaft plow really as amazing as you said? No, I'll go with you guys today. If it's really that amazing, Little Xian, you have to take care of me first. My family's farmers also complained that they didn't have enough cattle this year. Some of them might miss the spring plowing. No problem, let's go to the workshop now to pull the curved shaft plow. Since Ching Chumo wanted to go with them, Li Zixuan naturally wouldn't reject him. Li Zixuan let the 4 coachmen drive the carriages while he, Ching Chumo, and Yen Xiaoning rode behind them. The group rushed to the workshop. What surprised Li Zixuan was that he actually saw a few naughty kids on the road. They were riding on scooters and racing with each other. The other naughty kids around them were looking at them enviously. Li Zixuan smiled knowingly. All of this was within his expectations. The naughty kids who bought the scooters would spontaneously promote the Strange Taste Pavilion. In the following period of time, the sales of the Strange Taste Pavilion scooters would snowball and experience an explosive growth. The title should be Persuading People to Buy Chickens. I'm too lazy to change it now. It should be more interesting this way. I don't care if you guys believe it or not, I believe it. This isn't a clickbait, right? Chapter 80. After Li Zixuan and the others got the plows from the workshop, they brought Faubert to the Han village. Han Lijing remembered that Li Zixuan said that he was going to give them a new type of plows 2 days ago. Early in the morning, he brought Old Hu to the village entrance. The 2 men stood there and looked forward to it. A villager passed by and asked Old Hu what they were waiting for. Old Hu said that the young master was going to give them a batch of better plows today. When the villager heard this, although they didn't believe that there was a better plow in the world than the current straight plows, they thought that the young master had brought a series of benefits to the village recently. There was no reason for him to lie to them. Therefore, the villager who had nothing to do in the morning accompanied Han Lijing and Old Hu to wait at the village entrance. They looked forward to the stars and the moon, and they were about to turn into Amma stones. Finally, a group of carriages came into their sight. The person in the lead was Li Zixuan. Han Lijing quickly led the others to welcome them. Young master, you must have had a hard journey. Li Zixuan smiled and said, Uncle Han, it's okay. You guys came at the right time. I brought a total of 20 new plows. Help me move them to Uncle Han's house first. Li Zixuan stopped the carriage at the village entrance and called a few villagers to move the plows. He also introduced Ching Chumo, Yen Xiaoning, and Faubert to Han Lijing. Han Lijing was shocked and quickly greeted the 3 of them. They exchanged greetings for a while. When Li Zixuan saw the eagerness in Yen Xiaoning and the others' eyes, he said, Uncle Han, leave one of the plows. We'll go to the field now and see if the new plows are good or not. Uncle Hu, let's go to your family's field and try it out. Old Hu grinned and said, All right, young master. I, Old Hu, used to be a blacksmith. I, Old Hu, will be able to use your plow after studying it for a while. I'll try using this new plow later. Everyone followed Old Hu to the edge of the field. At this time, a farmer had already brought over an ox. Li Zishuan gave Old Hu a brief introduction of the use of the curved plow. Old Hu had been a blacksmith before, and he was also good at farming, so it didn't take him long to understand. He couldn't wait to tell Li Zishuan, and then he took the curved plow and led the cattle to the field. Old Hu tied the reins of the curved plow to the ox. He held the plow with one hand and drove the ox with the other. Old Hu was taken aback the moment he started the plow. It was obviously more effortless than before. It was completely different from the previous plow, which had to plow the land with a lot of potholes. If it weren't for the fact that it was his own field, Old Hu would have suspected that someone had filled the field with water before. It was too easy to plow. When he reached the end of the field, and was about to turn, Old Hu experienced another benefit of the curved plow. At this moment, Old Hu gently turned the shaft of the plow, and the entire plow easily turned around. It was not like the long and straight plow in the past, which had to be tilted and expended a lot of effort to turn around. It was obvious that the curved plow was more flexible, effortless, and time-efficient. Old Hu was so excited that his hands were trembling. He had lived for more than half of his life, but he had never used such a good plow. The Han village was saved, and no one would miss the spring plowing. At this time, there were already many farmers surrounding the embankment. When they saw how fast Old Hu was plowing, they couldn't help but be shocked. The farmers who had some experience quickly understood the superiority of this new plow. Everyone couldn't help but discuss spiritedly. This plow seems to be more effortless. Look at the ox leading the plow. Why does it seem effortless? It seems to be true. At this speed, won't they be able to plow 6 or 7 mu of land in a day? Haha, it's not just 6 or 7 mu. Han Xiaodong, you're already an adult, but you still don't have any eyesight. Can't you see that the plow is more than twice as fast as the previous plow? In my opinion, this new plow should be able to plow 10 mu of land in a day, and it doesn't even use the ox. A slightly older villager analyzed. 10 mu? So much? Old Hu increased the speed of the ox and quickly plowed a round trip. At this time, he pushed the plow to a place slightly closer to Li Zishuan and the others. He shouted excitedly, "Young Master Li Jing, this plow is really good. The plow is more than twice as fast as before. I, Old Hu, even feel that a slightly stronger adult can pull this plow." Hearing Old Hu's words, everyone on the ridge was shocked. They all thought that Old Hu was bragging. Who could pull a plow? Han Lijing also said suspiciously, "Old Hu, it's not as exaggerated as you say, right?" Old Hu anxiously said, "Li Jing, if you don't believe me, come down and help me hold the plow. I, Old Hu, will pull it." Han Lijing also wanted to experience it. He excused himself from the people on the ridge, rolled up his trousers, and went down. Old Hu pulled the ox to the side and let a farmer lead it. He hung the rope of the plow on his shoulder, leaned forward, and pulled one end of the rope. He shouted behind him, "Li Jing, are you done holding it?" Han Lijing replied, "Yes, you can start." Everyone held their breath and stared at Old Hu without blinking. In history, they had never heard of people pulling the plow. At this time, the muscles on Old Hu's arm bulged. Old Hu shouted and the plow began to move slowly. It moved, look, the plow actually moved. It's true, it's actually true. God, what kind of plow did young master bring us? An old farmer trembled as he knelt on the ground and muttered, "A divine plow, a divine plow. This is the divine plow of our Tang Empire." Faubert was also trembling with excitement. 2 days ago, when Li Zishuan explained the advantages of the plow to him, although Li Zishuan's words were clear and logical, he still had some doubts. But today, the facts were in front of him. He had no choice but to believe. The plow in front of him was even better than what Li Zishuan described that day. Young master, facts speak louder than words. This old man is convinced. This plow can really be called the divine plow of our Tang Empire. In the future, millions of people will be grateful for young master's kindness. Faubert looked at the excited farmer in front of him, and couldn't help but say. Li Zishuan smiled and said, "This is also thanks to Faubert's help. Without Faubert's exquisite skills, how could we make such an efficient plow?" Yan Xiaoning was breathing rapidly as if he had taken drugs. He grabbed Li Zishuan's arm and said incoherently, "Xiao Xian, this is a divine plow. This plow must be widely promoted. When I go back, I must tell my father to let the Ministry of Works purchase this plow. This is the good news of our Tang Empire's people." Li Zishuan was speechless. It was just a plow. Did these people have to praise it so much? Qing Chumo jumped out excitedly at this moment. He patted Li Zishuan's shoulder and shouted, "Xiao Xian, if you treat me as a brother, then supply my family with 100 of these plows first. My farmer needs them urgently." 100? Why don't you go rob a bank? Li Zishuan was furious. This guy was really asking for too much. The Han village only got 20. Moreover, even if he gave Qingchumo 100, did his farm have so many cattle? Wasn't this a waste of resources? Then let's start with 50, no less. My family's farmstead has 50 cattle, Qingchumo said with a flattering smile. Li Zishuan nodded. This was more like it. At this moment, he said to Faubert, "Faubert, when you go back to Chang'an, ask all the craftsmen in the workshop not to do anything but focus on making the plow. In addition, you are in charge of finding a group of skilled and reliable craftsmen. I wouldn't mind even if there were 40 or 50 of them. Don't worry, I don't lack money." Li Zishuan expressed that he was rich and could do whatever he wanted. Faubert nodded and agreed, "Yes, young master. This is an important matter. I will arrange it well." Chapter 81. After the villagers on the ridge saw the magic of the curved plow, some of them quickly spread the news back to the village. One person spread to 10, 10 spread to 100, and then the entire Han village was in an uproar. As soon as Li Zishuan and his group returned to the village, they were surrounded by enthusiastic villagers. "Young master, is this divine plow for sale?" "Yes, young master, where can I buy this divine plow? I want to buy one too. But I don't know if this divine plow is expensive." Li Zishuan waved his hand to stop the noisy crowd and shouted, "This plow is called the curved plow. I have already sent 20 plows to the Han village today. They are considered the public property of the village. If you can't afford a curved plow, you can rent one from Han Lijing. The rent is 5 copper coins a day. If you want to buy one, you can go to the Strange Interest Pavilion in the East Market of Chang'an City tomorrow. They sell one for 170 copper coins. If you want to buy one, please come early tomorrow. The other villages don't know about this plow yet, so no one will fight with you." The cost of a curved plow was about 150 copper coins. Li Zishuan didn't want to earn money from these poor villagers, so he set the price very low. He only wanted to earn money for his hard work. He didn't want the villagers to be grateful to him. He only wanted to feel at ease. As soon as Li Zishuan finished his words, the crowd started to discuss. "Master, it's only 170 copper coins. It's only 30 copper coins more expensive than the straight plow we bought before. Why don't we buy one too?" "Yes, it's better to buy one. You have to wake me up early tomorrow morning, or else we won't be able to buy it." "Xiaodong, is your family buying it?" "Of course, only a fool wouldn't buy such a useful plow. Didn't you hear what young master said? When the other villages know about it, you won't be able to buy it even if you want to." "Yes, that's right. Young master is really good to us villagers." "Of course." Li Zishuan walked out of the crowd with Qingchumo and the others when he saw that they were having a heated discussion. At this moment, Yan Xiaoning and Faubert both said goodbye. Yan Xiaoning had already achieved his goal of coming to the Han family manor today. Now, he only wanted to return home as soon as possible and report to his father how efficient it was to use the curved plow to plow the land. It would be able to solve the urgent problems of the imperial court to a large extent. Today, Faubert had witnessed the miraculous power of the curved shaft plow. He wanted to return to the workshop as soon as possible and recruit more craftsmen to mass-produce the curved shaft plow. Time waits for no man. If he builds one more curved shaft plow, there would be one less family missing the spring plowing. Faubert felt that his body was filled with passion for work. His waist was no longer sore, and his legs were no longer painful. His entire body was filled with energy. Li Zixuan saw that Qing Chumo seemed to want to leave in advance, so he hurriedly pulled him back and said, "Chonyo, don't go yet. I'll bring you to see the Han family Manor's chicken farm. If your family's farm also wants to raise chickens on a large scale, then do it like this. Otherwise, the chickens will easily catch the foul plague." Qing Chumo thought for a moment and nodded in agreement. "All right, then we'll listen to Little Xian and go take a look." The two of them followed Li Zixuan to the back mountain of the manor. Compared to the first time Li Zixuan came, the back mountain had changed a lot. In the forest, the farmers had used bamboo or tree branches to form chicken farms one after another. Each farm was about half a mu of land. Moreover, there was a sign hanging at the door with the name written on it. Li Zixuan nodded in satisfaction and turned around to ask, "Uncle Han, how many chicken farms are there on this mountain now?" Han Lijing smiled and replied, "Young master, because the farmers know that these chicken farms are for themselves, and because young master is paying them wages, everyone in the manor is very motivated to work. In 2 days, we have already surrounded more than 20 chicken farms. Young master, the 8,000 chickens that you sent before have all been settled down. The farmers have all used their own hens to raise these chickens. Everything is going smoothly. Then I'm relieved. Uncle Han, follow me in to see the chicken coop." Li Zixuan chose a chicken farm next to him and directly pushed the door open. Qing Chumo and Han Lijing also followed in. They saw a few old hens and a few groups of chickens. There were about 300 to 400 of them. They were looking for food everywhere. The chicken farm was noisy and lively. There was also a row of neatly arranged chicken coop inside. It was spacious and airy. Li Zixuan nodded in satisfaction and said, "Uncle Han, this chicken coop is very well done. Uncle Han, this chicken farm is done very well. Just build the rest like this. You have to hurry up. Now we've only delivered 8,000 chickens to you. There are still 72,000 left. Steward Wang will continue to deliver more to you in the next few days. Uncle Han, I suggest that you pick some people to manage the farm. It's best if you pick those who have learned the ability to control chickens. Let them get familiar with the chickens as soon as possible. These chickens are very important to me. Nothing must go wrong. Later, I will give you another 1,000 strings of cash. Go to Chang'an City and buy more quicklime. You have to sprinkle quicklime around the chicken coop regularly." Han Lijing nodded solemnly and said, "Young master, don't worry. I will arrange it well." Then Uncle Han, you go ahead. Chonyo and I will walk around here." Han Lijing nodded and smiled. "Okay, young master, I will go back first." After Han Lijing left, Li Zixuan did not hear any movement from Qing Chumo for a long time. He could not help but turn around and found Qing Chumo staring at him in shock. Li Zixuan touched his face strangely and asked in puzzlement, "Chonyo, what happened to you? Were you struck by lightning?" Qing Chumo wanted to kick Li Zixuan angrily, but Li Zixuan easily dodged it. "Damn you, you are the one who was struck by lightning. I say, Xiao Xian, from what you said before, are you planning to buy 80,000 chickens?" Yesterday, he received news that Li Zixuan had bought at least 7,000 chickens. He was shocked by this number at that time. He never thought that it was just a drop in the bucket. Li Zixuan was playing too big, far beyond his imagination. "Yes, what's wrong with this? What's wrong with this? Are you crazy? 80,000 chickens? Chang'an City consumes less than 80,000 chickens in a month. Who are you going to sell these chickens to when they grow up?" Ching Chumo said angrily. Li Zixuan touched his nose and said awkwardly, Cho Nyo, actually the most valuable part of a chicken is not its meat, do you know? Ching Chumo heard him, and looked at him as if he was an idiot. He was speechless, but what he wanted to say was written on his face. He was clearly saying, I am not educated, don't lie to me. Li Zixuan also knew that he could not explain it clearly, so he could only say vaguely, Cho Nyo, you will understand what I mean next year. Your family's chicken farm must be built like the Han family's. Take a good look. Your family cannot buy so many chickens like me, but you must buy them, or you will regret it next year. Seeing that Li Zixuan was serious, Ching Chumo could only nod and say, Okay, I will tell my father tonight. P.S. Regarding the issue of updating, I would like to clarify. Swordsmen were surprised when I saw that many readers were urging me to update the book in the comments section. I can finally say goodbye to the single-player game. Swordsmen are honored that everyone is urging me to update the book. Swordsmen would like to clarify the issue of updating the book. Usually, the book will be updated at least 2 times a day, and occasionally 3 times. This book has been open for more than 40 days, and it has never stopped updating. Usually, a chapter will be updated at noon, and a chapter will be updated at 10 p.m. Due to the lack of popularity of his new book, there were fewer recommendations. Therefore, Vigilante A could only release his new book at certain times, hoping that others would be able to read his new book amidst the sea of book. Although this method was stupid, Vigilante A had no other choice. If there are many people reading the book, Swordsman will release 2 or 3 chapters at once to prevent people from waiting in the middle. In the end, it's all about understanding. I hope that everyone can understand. Also, if you find out that your comments on the bookstore's book review section have been deleted, don't blame it on Vigilante A. That's because your comments contain sensitive words that are automatically deleted by the system. Vigilante A. Vigilante's own comments have been deleted many times. As for which sensitive words are, Vigilante A. Vigilante doesn't know. Everyone will ask why you did not put this paragraph in the comments section or put it in the author's words section. Are you trying to increase the word count by putting it there? First of all, Vigilante A tried to post it in the book reviews and comments section, but it was instantly deleted by the system. Then, I also wanted to put it in the author's words section at the bottom, but there was a word limit there, so I couldn't put it there. I am also in despair. I can't even post in my own comments section. Chapter 82. After visiting the chicken farm, Li Zixuan and Ching Chumo left the Han family village. He originally wanted to see Hu Jing and his younger brother, but after thinking about it, he realized that he had been busy with the affairs of Strange Interest Pavilion these past few days and had forgotten to ask Li Chengxian to help him inquire about Sun Simiao's whereabouts. Even if he went to old Hu's house now, he wouldn't be able to treat Hu Jing and his younger brother, so he left with Ching Chumo. In his heart, he planned to find out Sun Simiao's whereabouts after these 2 days of work. Previously in Zhongnan Mountains, Sun Simiao had saved his life, and he hadn't thanked him yet. It wasn't Li Zixuan's style to not repay a favor. Chang, an East City, curious pavilion. It was noon and the sun was shining brightly. Although it wasn't as hot as summer, the midday sun still made people sweat a little when it shone on their bodies. In front of the curious pavilion, the hot sun overhead couldn't stop people's enthusiasm, and there was already a long line in front of the door. Shopkeeper, how many scooters do you have today? Yeah, there were only 300 scooters yesterday, and I didn't even get one. Last night when I got home, I was disturbed by that brat for the whole night. Shopkeeper, you're too unkind. Can't you prepare more? Aren't you cheating people? Yeah, you're cheating people. Last night, I was disturbed by that brat at home for the whole night, and I didn't sleep well. Hearing the commotion outside, a skinny, dark-skinned middle-aged man walked out of the Strange Interest Pavilion. He looked like a scholar. This man was the new shopkeeper that Li Jingmo recruited for his son. His name was Sun Huayuan, and he was the cousin of Sun Huaiming, the new shopkeeper of Li Ji clothing store. He was quite talented. Previously, he was the shopkeeper of a calligraphy and painting store in Chang'an City. Later, because he offended the owner's son, he was fired and had been idle at home. Yesterday, when he heard that Li Jingmo wanted to recruit a shopkeeper for his son, Sun Huaiming strongly recommended his cousin. Li Jingmo had always been very satisfied with Sun Huaiming's performance in the clothing store, so he gave Sun Huaiming some face and let his cousin try out the Strange Taste Pavilion first. However, before Sun Huayuan was appointed, Li Zixuan called him to his side and gave him some instructions. In the end, Li Zixuan handed him the future development plan of Strange Interest Pavilion written by Li Zixuan and asked him to follow it. Sun Huayuan originally had the arrogance of a scholar, so he was disdainful of the development plan written by a 14-year-old boy, who knew that when he opened it, he would see business plans that he had never seen before. He couldn't help but be shocked. He thought to himself, could it be that the boss's son is a monster? At the same time, he also made up his mind to follow the plan. Otherwise, if he didn't do a good job and got fired, not only would he fail to live up to his cousin's good intentions, but his wife would also fall out with him. Sun Huayuan walked out of the Strange Interest Pavilion and shouted to the crowd, "Everyone, please don't be impatient. Today there will be 500 scooters. Please don't cut the queue. Also, I just received a notice from the master in my workshop. For the next 5 days, Strange Interest Pavilion will stop selling scooters. Because of my young master's order, Strange Interest Pavilion's workshop will focus on manufacturing a more important tool in the next few days. The scooters will be sold next time. Please forgive us." Sun Huayuan gracefully cupped his hands and apologized to everyone. He was actually quite helpless. After Uncle Fu came back this morning, he immediately sent someone to the Strange Taste Pavilion to inform him that the workshop would not be producing scooters for the next few days. It was said that they were going to focus on producing a batch of more important tools. For Faubert, a national treasure like the curved plow was obviously more important than a child's toy like the scooter. At this critical time, how could he be distracted? Naturally, he would give up on the scooter first. However, the crowd in the queue didn't think so. They were originally happy when they heard that there would be 500 scooters available today. Who knew that Sun Huayuan would tell them that Strange Interest Pavilion would stop selling scooters for the next few days, and that it was unknown when they would be able to sell scooters again. If they couldn't buy scooters for their children today, wouldn't they not have peace for the next few days? Sun Huayuan's last sentence poked a hornet's nest. "Shopkeeper, how can you do business like this? We're going to boycott your shop. We'll never buy scooters again." "Yes, we're not buying anymore." Brother, if you don't want to buy it, can you give your seat to me?" "Bah, who said I'm not buying anymore?" "Ah? Didn't you just say that?" "I didn't say that. Go away." "Hey, why are you scolding me?" "I'm scolding you." "What, you dare to look at me?" "I'm looking at you, so what?" "Why don't you try looking at me again?" "Fine, I'll try. What can you do?" At first, there were people who wanted to put pressure on Sun Huayuan to cancel the suspension of the scooter sales. Sun Huayuan panicked when he heard the commotion. Who knew that the commotion didn't get everyone's response? Instead, there was an internal conflict. There were already signs of a big fight. Sun Huayuan was stunned at the door. It was the first time he saw such a weird customer. However, he couldn't let them fight. If Wu Ho was alerted, it would probably implicate Strange Fun Pavilion. Sun Huaiming quickly went down to mediate. "Please calm down. Please don't fight. Although we will temporarily suspend the sale of the scooters for a few days, you can use our membership card to reserve the scooter first. When we have the scooter, we will send it to your home as soon as possible. Membership card? What membership card? The burly man who wanted to boycott the strange interest pavilion asked in surprise. The rest of the people also looked over curiously. At this time, Sun Huayuan loudly explained to the crowd, "Friends, in order to save everyone's time, our strange fun pavilion will introduce a membership system. We will also arrange a corresponding membership channel. Customers who pay 500 coins in one go will receive a white membership card. Those who pay 1,000 coins in one go will receive a green membership card. Those who pay 1,000 coins in one go will receive a blue membership card. Those who pay 20 coins will receive a purple membership card. Those who pay 100 coins will receive an orange membership card. Those who pay 500 coins will receive a red Supreme membership card. Our Strange Fun Pavilion's membership levels from low to high are white, green, blue, purple, orange, and red. In the future, all members can line up in the membership channel. Of course, the higher the membership level, the higher the priority you will receive when you line up. Correspondingly, you will receive better discounts when you buy product. The Red Supreme membership card will give you a 40% discount when you buy product. Every membership card that we give out is special and requires a fingerprint. It will not be counterfeited. Every sum of money that you deposit and withdraw from Strange Fun Pavilion will be recorded in detail. There will be no mistakes. Friends who didn't buy a scooter today can apply for a membership card to reserve it. Everyone, don't miss this opportunity. Our Strange Fun Pavilion will have even more novel products in the future. There are only things that you can't think of. There is nothing that we can't do. Sun Huayuan introduced the business plan that Li Zixuan had written for him to the crowd. Li Zixuan had used the color of the character cards and equipment from the online games in his previous life to Strange Fun Pavilion's membership card. He wanted to tell the people of the Tang Dynasty that life was like playing an online game. If you want to be awesome, you have to spend money. It was just like the online games released by a certain company in his previous life. If you don't spend money, you won't be able to play. The audience was stunned by this membership system that they had never heard of before. The people who bought the scooter yesterday were secretly glad. They only spent 360 copper coins yesterday, and they actually got a white membership card that was worth 500 copper coins. This wave of people did not suffer a loss. Most of the people in front of the line were watching. They were in front of the line and should be able to buy a scooter today. Therefore, they were not in a hurry. They were waiting to see if anyone was willing to apply for a membership card. However, the people at the back of the line could not sit still. "Shopkeeper, I want to apply for a green membership card. I want to use your members channel. I also want a green membership card." Green was the color that protected the environment. Everyone liked it. Behind the crowd, there was an elegant young man wearing white clothes and holding a folding fan in his hand. He was looking at the noisy crowd. The corners of his mouth were raised into a meaningful smile. He ordered the manservant beside him, "Don't worry. Lu Yun, go and apply for a Red Supreme membership card for this young master." "Ah, young master, this..." The servant suspected that he had misheard. The white-clothed young master frowned. He naturally had a dignified aura. He did not want to repeat himself. "Yes, young master. This servant will go now." Seeing the young master frown, Lu Yun was so scared that he did not dare to ask any more, and went to apply for a membership card. Only then did the white-clothed young master relax his frown. He muttered to himself, "Strange Fun Pavilion, hee. How interesting." Chapter 83. Outside of Strange Interest Pavilion, there were dozens of people crowding around Sun Huayuan to register for a membership card. Sun Huayuan hurriedly helped these people register, but he was pleasantly surprised. He didn't think that there would be so many people willing to buy a membership card. These people would most likely become loyal customers of Strange Interest Pavilion in the future. At this moment, some of the people at the front of the line couldn't sit still. Originally, according to the order, they would be able to buy a scooter today, but now there were so many people who wanted to buy a membership card. According to the membership system that Manager Sun had just introduced, these members could use the member channel to cut the line. If this was the case, then the people at the front of the line would most likely not be able to buy a scooter today. Thinking that if they couldn't buy a scooter today, they would definitely be disturbed by their naughty children for several days. These people couldn't help but shiver and clench their teeth. Isn't it just a membership card? I'll buy it. Thus, more and more people wanted to buy a membership card. Seeing this, Sun Huayuan smiled like a flower and quickly called a few employees to help him register. In fact, most of these people wanted a green membership card. Sun Huayuan had been registering for a long time, but the highest number he saw was 10 blue membership cards. There wasn't a single purple membership card. People were greedy. At first, Sun Huayuan was worried that no one would be willing to buy a membership card, but now he was hoping that someone would buy a few purple membership cards. He was disappointed in his heart when he heard a young man's voice. "Manager, buy a red Supreme membership card for my family's young master." Schwa! The noisy crowd instantly quieted down and looked at the person who spoke. Sun Huayuan also suspected that he had misheard and asked with uncertainty, "Dear customer, what kind of membership card did you say you wanted?" "I'm not the one doing it, I'm just doing it for my family's young master. He wants a red Supreme membership card." "Manager, hurry up, we're in a hurry. This is the membership fee, see if it's enough." Lu Yun tossed 5 golden pancakes to shopkeeper Sunday. After all, 500 strings of copper coins could be pulled by an ox cart. It was really inconvenient to carry them when going out. In the Tang Dynasty, gold could be used for large transactions, but silver could not be used. In fact, there was silver in the Tang Dynasty, but before the Song Dynasty, most areas in China did not use silver as currency. In the Tang Dynasty, the annual production of silver was only 15,000 taels. At that time, for ordinary people, there were only 3 sources of silver. The first was a reward from the emperor, the second was a bribe from local officials, and the third was the payment from foreign merchants. Regardless of the source of the silver, no one would use it for trading. In large transactions, gold chains and gold pancakes were more commonly used. That's enough, that's enough. I'll handle it for you right away." After Sun Huayuan confirmed that he didn't mishear, he quickly took the golden pancake and weighed it in his hand. Then, he wiped the sweat on his forehead and began to register. "May I know your young master's name? We need to register and press our fingerprint." Sun Huayuan raised his head and asked. Lu Yun frowned and said, "It's inconvenient to reveal the identity of my young master. You can just write the word Wang and I'll press the handprint." Sun Huayuan was a little confused. This was the first time he encountered such a situation. However, this person wanted to apply for a red card, so he should take care of him. He could only nod and say, "Okay, we'll do as you say." The 500 scooters of the Strange Interest Pavilion were all sold out in 4 hours. Those who applied for a membership card had all bought one. Many people in front of the line who thought that they would be able to buy one didn't. They couldn't help but beat their chests and stomp their feet. They definitely wouldn't have a good time in the next few days. Including the scooters that were sold yesterday, there were currently 800 scooters in Chang'an City. The naughty kids who owned scooters naturally formed groups and began to show off in all kinds of fancy ways in Chang'an City. They were all risking their lives. For a moment, the streets and alleys of Chang'an City were filled with naughty kids on scooters chasing each other. Naturally, all kinds of accidents were caused. The entire Chang'an City was in chaos. People and horses were thrown off their feet. Yongxing City. Nay, a coachman suddenly pulled the reins tightly. The horse raised its front hooves high and neighed. The speeding carriage behind suddenly stopped. The people in the carriage staggered and almost fell out of the carriage. "Lai Fu, what happened?" There was a hint of anger in the middle-aged man's voice. He had just come out of the palace and was thinking about the deeper meaning of Emperor Li Er's words. He didn't expect to be interrupted by this sudden breaking. "Master, there are a few kids playing on a moving plank in front of us. I was afraid of hitting them, so I pulled the horse. Please forgive me." The coachman named Lai Fu quickly got off the carriage and bowed to the inside of the carriage. At this time, the middle-aged man in the carriage lifted the curtain and looked at the kids playing in the middle of the road. He couldn't help but be curious when he saw that they could easily slide on a plank. He walked forward and asked, "Little kids, what are you playing on?" A little girl with a ponytail answered, "This is a scooter." "Grandpa, don't you know?" The middle-aged man asked, "Where did you buy this scooter?" "Strange Interest Pavilion in the East City. My father bought it for me with great difficulty." The middle-aged man stroked his beard. He silently remembered this Strange Interest Pavilion. He smiled at the kids and said, "Go play in other open spaces. Don't play in the middle of the road. It's dangerous." "Okay, thank you, Grandpa." The middle-aged man turned around and frowned. He muttered to himself, "Strange Interest Pavilion, selling this kind of children's toy that disturbs the order of Chang, and they don't care about the safety of children. I must report them tomorrow. Lai Fu, let's go back." "Yes, master." The carriage moved slowly again and finally stopped in front of a mansion. The words, "House of Wei," were hanging on the lintel. Li Zishuan didn't know that someone was unhappy with his scooter. He called Wang Zhong when he got home and asked about the purchase of chicken seedlings today. "Young master, we bought 10,000 chicken seedlings today. The peddlers sent a large batch of chicken seedlings from the vicinity of Chang'an yesterday." "Young master, you are very smart. The price of the chicken seedlings today is indeed more expensive. It has risen to 100 copper coins each. Correspondingly, the price of eggs in Chang'an has risen from 2 copper coins each to 5 copper coins. I am afraid that the price tomorrow will be even more expensive, so I bought all the chicken seedlings in the East City today." Li Zishuan nodded and praised, "Well, Uncle Wang, buy as many as you have now. The price of the chicken seedlings will only get higher and higher. You did the right thing. Send this batch of chicken seedlings to the Han village now." "Yes, young master." Chapter 84. Afternoon, Yen Manor. Yen Xiaoning was pacing in the front hall, anxiously waiting for something. Young master, master is back." A servant in green rushed in and shouted, "That's great, my father is finally back." Yen Xiaoning walked out of the door quickly and arrived at the front courtyard. He saw Yen Lide had just entered the residence. "Father, you're finally back." When he returned to Chang'an with Faubert this morning, he wanted to tell his father about the curved yuan plow. However, the old butler said that his father went to the morning court and had not returned yet. Yen Xiaoning could only wait anxiously. The curved yuan plow belonged to Chitsu Pavilion, and he had a share in Chitsu Pavilion. Thinking about it, the curved yuan plow must be related to him. He knew that the court was thinking of a solution for the people's spring plowing. Although Yen Xiaoning had some strange ideas in the past, they were just for fun. Now that the curved yuan plow was born, he could help his father. Thinking of this, Yen Xiaoning could not help but feel excited. "Ning-er, you're looking for me?" "Yes, father. It's very important. Please follow me to the study." "In the study." "Ning-er, tell me. Why are you looking for me? You look like you're in a hurry." After Yen Lide sat down, he asked curiously. Although this son of his wasn't like the other hedonistic sons who played cockfights, walked dogs, and loitered in brothels, he didn't do any proper work and spent all his time researching strange things. He really didn't know why his son was in such a hurry to find him today. "Father, has the court been thinking of a solution for the spring plowing near Chang, and recently?" Yen Lide sighed, "Yes. A few days ago, His Majesty was planning to bring in a batch of cattle from Bing Province to Chang, and to solve the urgent problem. However, there was an urgent report today that a group of bandits in Bing province had robbed the cattle prepared by the court. His Majesty was furious. However, the most important thing now was not to eliminate the bandits, but to solve the spring plowing problem for some farmers. After the morning court, His Majesty asked Minister Fong, Minister Wei, and me to stay behind to discuss this matter. That's why I only came back at this hour. Ning when did you become interested in court matters? Yan Xiaoning smiled. Father, I already have a solution for the spring plowing problem. What? Ning this is a serious matter. You can't joke about it. Yan Lai widened his eyes in disbelief. Yan Xiaoning saw that his father didn't believe him, so he told Yan Lai about the invention of the curved shaft plow and the effects he saw with his own eyes when he went to the Han family village today. After Yan Lai heard this, he stood up in shock and muttered to himself, "A divine plow has descended. The heavens are truly protecting my great Tang." Father still underestimated Li Zixuan. Ning you've helped the imperial court a lot this time. Father will report to His Majesty tomorrow and ask for a reward for you. The next day, at the first glimmer of dawn, there were already a dozen farmers in coarse linen clothes on the path outside Chang'an City, rushing towards Chang'an City. "Oh, isn't this brother-in-law? Why are you so early today?" A quick-witted young man saw that the person in front of him looked familiar and quickly sped up to catch up. When he realized that it was his brother-in-law, he greeted him. "Hey, so it's you, Xiaodong. I heard that the price of eggs in Chang'an City has risen recently. Your sister asked me to get up early today and sell the eggs at home. Later, I can buy a new set of clothes for my son." The man carried a wicker basket and answered when he saw that it was his brother-in-law. The quick-witted young man was Han Xiaodong from the Han family manor. Today, his father had woken him up early in the morning and told him to go to the strange interest pavilion to buy a curved plow. A few years ago, his elder sister had married into the plum village. This man was his brother-in-law. His name was Mei Jun, but he was big and burly, not handsome at all. Usually, the two families had a good relationship and they visited each other frequently. Well, I also heard about this. It's said that eggs in Chang'an City are sold for 5 coins each. Haha, my sister is still as smart as before. Hee. The man scratched his head embarrassedly. At this moment, he seemed to have thought of something and asked, "Xiaodong, why are you so early today?" Han Xiaodong was a little hesitant. He had seen the efficiency and flexibility of the curved shaft plow with his own eyes. Even if he was not educated, he knew that if everyone knew about the curved shaft plow, the Han family village would definitely not be able to buy it. However, his brother-in-law's family usually treated him very well. Han Xiaodong scratched his ears and cheeks. After hesitating for a long time, he finally made a decision and whispered, "Brother-in-law, come here. I want to tell you something. You must not tell anyone else, okay?" Mei Jun saw that his brother-in-law was speaking so mysteriously and could not help but be curious. He patted his chest and promised, "Xiaodong, who doesn't know that your brother-in-law is the most tight-lipped person in this area? You can rest assured." Han Xiaodong was speechless when he heard his brother-in-law bragging. At this moment, he remembered that his brother-in-law was nicknamed Big Mouth Mei. He could not help but regret it. However, since he had already said it, it was too late to make up another excuse. Han Xiaodong could only say, "Brother-in-law, you must not talk about what I told you. Otherwise, I will ask my sister to punish you by making you kneel on the washboard. I came to Chang'an today to buy a curved shaft plow at the Strange Taste Pavilion in the East Market. Let me tell you, this curved shaft plow is awesome. It can increase the speed of plowing by at least 3 times. Yesterday, my young master personally brought a batch of curved shaft plow to our village to do an experiment. The speed of plowing was witnessed by everyone in our village. My young master also said that the curved shaft plow will be sold at the Strange Taste Pavilion today for only 170 copper coins. Almost everyone in our village will come to buy it today. Now, other villages do not know about it yet. We will definitely be able to buy it. Brother-in-law, if you want to buy one, you can also buy one. However, you must not tell anyone else. Otherwise, if the people in our village know that I am the one who told others, they will beat me to death. You must not trick me. Mei Jun heard that the curved shaft plow was so awesome and could not help but drool. He secretly made up his mind that after selling all the eggs today, he must buy one. When he returned home, his wife would definitely praise him for being quick-witted. At this moment, when he heard his brother-in-law ask him to keep it a secret, he quickly raised his hand and swore, "Xiaodong, don't worry. I will definitely not tell anyone about it to trick you. Thank you for telling me all this. Our family's land will not miss the spring plowing. Your sister and I did not dote on you for nothing." Han Xiaodong was still worried and reminded him again, "Yes, brother-in-law, you must remember not to tell anyone. Otherwise, my sister will punish you by making you kneel on the washboard." Han Xiaodong's thinking was a little simple. Which villager in the Han village did not have relatives in other villages? Even if he did not say it, many villagers would secretly inform their relatives. An undercurrent was gradually surging and was about to engulf the Strange Taste Pavilion. The name of the divine plow would soon spread throughout the world. Chapter 85. The morning drum of Chang'an City finally sounded. The soldiers on the city walls opened the city gates and let the peddlers in. However, the general guarding Yangxingmen was surprised to see that most of the people entering the city were farmers in linen clothes. In the past, when the city gates opened, it was mostly peddlers from outside the city. He didn't expect so many farmers to come in today. Didn't the farmers need to plow in spring? After entering the city, the farmers went straight to the East Market. They asked around and finally found the Strange Interest Pavilion. The gate of the Strange Interest Pavilion was not open yet, but many farmers were lining up in front of the gate. So this is the Strange Interest Pavilion. It's the first time I've seen it. It's so cool. Old Hu also came today. His wife thought that it was more convenient and cost-effective to buy a curved plow than to rent one in the village, so she urged him to come and buy one. "Hey, Old Hu, I heard from my daughter that the things in the Strange Interest Pavilion are very expensive. 2 days ago they were selling something called a scooter. It's just a wooden board with a few small wheels under it. One scooter costs 400 coins. Oh, then we have to thank the young master. This curved plow is so easy to use, but it only costs 170 coins. I guess the young master didn't make any money from us. That must be it. I, Han admire the young master. It's a pity that I don't have a daughter. Otherwise, I would definitely send her to the young master as a concubine." Li Zishuan got up early today to check on the preparation of the curved plow. He didn't expect to hear Han Er's silly words as soon as he arrived. He almost fell to the ground. Han Er's first sentence reminded Li Zishuan of a classic joke from his previous life. "I admire you even if you don't help me when I go to the toilet." As for Han Er's last sentence, Li Zishuan automatically ignored it. Even if Han Er had a daughter, Li Zishuan wouldn't dare to have her. "Hey, the young master is here." "Greetings, young master." Old Hu saw Li Zishuan coming. He hurriedly greeted him. "Young master." "Greetings, young master." When the villagers heard Old Hu's words, they hurriedly greeted Li Zishuan warmly. They were grateful to this young master from the bottom of their hearts. Li Zishuan nodded to everyone and entered the Strange Interest Pavilion. "Shopkeeper's son, how many curved plows did the workshop send today?" After Li Zishuan entered the room and greeted Sun Huayuan, he went straight to the point. He had also read the report on the number of members that Sun Huayuan had submitted for the first day yesterday. He was very satisfied with Sun Huiyuan's ability. Sun Huiyuan no longer dared to belittle this 14-year-old youth in front of him. His performance yesterday was all in accordance with the business plan that Li Zixuan had given him. At this moment, he bowed and replied. Young master, the workshop sent 150 curved plows today. It is said that they have recruited nearly 40 craftsmen. The production speed of the curved plows will only get faster and faster. Li Zixuan nodded his head. 150 was more or less enough. The Han family village only had a total of about 200 households, so it was impossible for every household to buy a curved shaft plow. The number of curved shaft plows today should be enough to supply the Han family village's households. Coincidentally, the other villages had not received the news today, so no one would fight with the Han family village. Li Zixuan was not a saint. If there were benefits, he would give them to his villagers first. Hey, father, didn't you say that the strange interest pavilion would not be selling scooters today? Why are there so many people queuing up today? A father and daughter walked past the strange interest pavilion. The little girl saw the long queue in front of the pavilion and stopped to ask her father. Yesterday, the shopkeeper did say that they would not be selling scooters for the next few days. Yuan, let's go and ask your father. The father and daughter pair found a burly man with a rough appearance. Brother, the strange interest pavilion is not selling scooters today. Why are you queuing up here? Old Hu woke up before the sun rose. He was standing in the queue and was about to fall asleep when he heard someone talking to him. He opened his eyes and looked at the person in front of him. The person was well dressed and had a polite attitude. Old Hu bowed and said, "Brother, we are not here to buy scooters today. We can't afford those things." "Then what are you here to buy?" Old Hu looked around and whispered, "We are here to buy plows. Judging from your attire, you are definitely not a villager. Let's leave quickly." Mei Jun hurriedly sold the eggs in the East Market and was about to go to the strange interest pavilion to buy the curved plows. "Hey, isn't this Big Mouth Mei? You sold out so quickly. Are you going home?" At this time, a skinny old man came over with a basket of eggs. He seemed to be here to sell eggs as well. "Hey, Second Master Lu, why are you here to sell eggs personally today?" "I just finished selling my eggs and was about to go to the strange interest pavilion to buy something. It just so happens that you are here at my stall." Mei Jun saw the man and quickly greeted him with a smile. The man in front of him was quite prestigious in the Plum Village. "Brat, what can you buy at that place? You are spending money recklessly. Be careful that your wife will beat you when you go back." Second Master Lu chuckled as he placed his eggs on Mei Jun's stall. "No way." Mei Jun curled his lips. At this time, he looked around and sneakily leaned over and whispered, "Second Master Lu, the thing I want to buy today is very powerful. I only told you because you are tight-lipped. Please don't tell anyone." "I'm telling you." "Okay, Second Master Lu, I have to go quickly. Otherwise, I won't be able to buy it." Mei Jun said a lot of things. Seeing that it was almost noon, he knew he was in trouble and hurriedly said goodbye. "Wait, I will go with you." Second Master Lu agilely picked up the eggs and followed him. At the strange interest pavilion, more than 100 curved plows were quickly sold. There were only 40 left. At this time, Mei Jun and Second Master Lu finally arrived and hurriedly lined up. Of course, Mei Jun's situation was not an exception. After a while, another 20 to 30 villagers came and lined up. Li Zixuan looked at these people and saw that they did not seem to be from the Han village. He could not help but frown slightly. He did not know how these people knew about the curved plows, but he could not say anything about the situation. Since he was open for business, there was no reason to be picky. In fact, these people's situation was similar to Mei Jun and Second Master Lu's. They were all secretly told by their relatives in the Han village. Some people were like Mei Jun and did not know how to keep their mouths shut. Thus, more and more people knew about the curved plows. Li Zixuan silently estimated that there were about 50 to 60 people outside the Han family manor. From the looks of it, there were still some Han family manor's villagers who would not be able to snatch the Ziyuan plow today. He could not help but feel that it was a pity. But he did not know that at this moment, a storm was sweeping over the imperial court with him as the center. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.